Chapter 274. Land of Iron, in a relatively quiet room of a tea house. Garashi looked around and said, "Let's talk here." "Yes, first of all, thank you for listening to my request." Maitreya said softly, "In short, a world-destroying disaster is coming, and I hope to use your power to protect this world." Puff. Asma and others directly spat out all the tea they just drank, and then looked at each other with strange eyes. What was this woman who called herself a witch doing? Just like the box of bliss, why does she want to destroy the world? Destroying all day long, the world will be annoyed. Seeing their reaction, Maitreya was not surprised. Instead, he explained seriously, in ancient history, the country of ghosts has always sealed a powerful demon called Wangliang. Protecting and sealing Wangliang is the mission of us witches passed down from generation to generation. However, I recently prophesied that someone will open the seal and try to rule the world with the power of Morio, so I deliberately came to the meeting place of the 5 major ninja villages to inform them of this situation, but unfortunately, the Kage of the major ninja villages didn't want to believe it. Everyone was speechless. No normal person would believe this, right? What destruction of the world, what prophecy, is this a lie? Asma coughed twice. Let's not talk about the demon that will destroy the world. I just heard you mention a prophecy. Maitreya nodded gently. Miko has the ability to prophesy. Asma touched his face. Then can you predict what kind of girlfriend I will find in the future? Sorry, I can only see some scenes passively. Maitreya shook her head slightly. I can't use this ability actively. Everyone looked at her with contempt. This woman is really a liar. Moreover, what I can see is only a very important scene related to me, or related to this world. Asma's mouth twitched. This means that he is not important, right? Then, Maitreya looked at Garashi and said, in the scenes I saw that can save the world, there is a scene of Garashi-sama. The password is correct. Mizuki's eyes became kind. Someone who can say such a thing must not be a bad person. Kakashi also nodded heavily. It seems that the probability of the prophecy being accurate is very high. Maitreya was a little surprised and thought to himself, what a cute child. He actually believed what I said so easily. Garashi pondered for a moment before asking, do you need us to go there after the war? That's not necessary. The prophecy indicates that the time is next May. Maitreya's voice was soft. As long as Lord Garashi can arrive before then, it will be fine. I understand. Garashi nodded. I'll set aside some time when the time comes. Thank you very much. I won't disturb you any longer. After Maitreya left, Asma asked suspiciously, Garashi, do you really believe what this woman said? The credibility of her words is still relatively high. Garashi rubbed his chin. Perhaps it's because I've dealt with demons before, but I do sense a similar aura from her. Fiendish demon? Jing-Yin exclaimed. An existence similar to that Wu? Red also asked worriedly, will it be dangerous? Or should we tell this to Lord Naruto and the others? Even if it was a tailed beast, they didn't think that it would cause any trouble to Garashi. But these demons were different. The unknown itself represented great fear. Not to mention, these demons that had been sealed since ancient times seemed to have quite strange abilities. For example, Wu, who came out of the box of bliss, was weaker than the average tailed beast, but with the ability to read minds, even the Tsuchikage couldn't do anything to him. Of course, I have to report it. However, compared to others, I have the experience of fighting demons. I'm indeed the best choice. Garashi smiled gently and comforted, don't worry, I won't mess around. The war had just ended, and the villages were in a state where everyone was an eyesore. In order to avoid unnecessary conflicts, the villages didn't stay long after the meeting. Back to Woodleaf. The garrisons of the various battlefields all withdrew to the village. Everyone cheered loudly as soon as they entered the village. Haha. I finally came back alive. It's a pity that some people will never come back again. Don't say such unlucky things on a happy day. That's right, in short, King War. They screamed, cried, cursed, and laughed, as if they wanted to vent all the excess emotions in their bodies at once. Although the overall situation in Woodleaf was relatively good, how could there be no deaths in the war? They had been carrying a very heavy pressure, and now they could finally be relieved. In this sea of cheers, Garashi and the others couldn't help but be affected by their emotions. It's been almost 4 years since we joined the war, right? Asma sighed with emotion. It's been a long time. From the confusion and fear when we first entered the battlefield to the determination and decisiveness now, we really changed a lot unconsciously. Inazuka Erasure also sighed. When I first entered the battlefield, I thought about whether I would die in the war one day. Hyuga Mori looked at Garashi gratefully and said, "If it weren't for you, Garashi, I might have died long ago." Hearing his words, everyone looked at him gratefully. They are geniuses, but in the war, even most of the jonins can only be a mark on the list of casualties. A genius who hasn't grown up is nothing. Yes. Thanks to you, Garashi. In this war, the luckiest thing for me is to join this team. Garashi smiled. Me too, the luckiest thing is to be with you. This is youth. Guy shouted excitedly, but youth is endless. This time, no one cast a look of disgust, but they were touched and nodded. Although our team is disbanded, we should contact each other more in the future. If you dare to forget me, I won't spare you. Oh, I can't bear to part with everyone. Don't say it like it's a life and death parting. Everyone is in the village. We can get together when we want to see each other. After they were done being sentimental, everyone left with heavy footsteps. Garashi also returned to his empty home in silence, lying on the lawn of the courtyard and looking at the sky. Even a person like me would feel sad. Shackles are indeed something that can make people weak. Shaking his head slightly, Garashi entered a calm state of mind. Power, prestige, strength, I got everything I can get in the war. Now it's time to think about the next stage. Chapter 275. While Garashi was secretly planning the next stage of the operation, in another direction, the two girls who did not go home met. Red, you just told me not to go home, right? Seeing Red return, Shizen asked doubtfully. N. Red nodded. We've known each other for so many years, but we haven't had a good talk. N. Shizen bit her lips. I also want to talk to you. Then let's go to the park. Up to you. Perhaps because the war was over and everyone was celebrating at home, the usually lively park was now very quiet. The two girls walked on the path covered with fallen leaves, enjoying the moment of tranquility as the breeze blew. After a moment of silence, Red turned her head and asked, Shizen, you also like Garashi, right? Although it was a very obvious thing, it was the first time Shizen spoke about it so openly under the sun. Shizen could not help but feel a little shy, but she still nodded firmly. Yes, Red, you too, right? Red put her hands behind her back, her eyes drifted to the side, of course. After speaking, Shizen's shyness in her heart lessened a lot, and she asked curiously, can you tell me, how did you fall in love with Garashi? Red's fingertips gently touched her chin as she recalled. At first, it was because of Garashi's kindness and gentleness. Like a beam of light, people could not help but want to get close to him. Then it was because of Garashi's hard work. Everyone likes to judge Shushi as a so-called genius. They make it sound as if everything about him is a matter of course. Red said with some dissatisfaction. But the truth? When they were playing, Garashi worked in the hospital to support himself. When they were resting, Garashi forgot to eat and sleep to practice ninjutsu. I know. Shushi is more hardworking than anyone else. Everyone said that Guy was a hardworking genius, but in my opinion, Garashi's effort is definitely not less than Guy. I just like this gentle, hardworking Garashi. Red's face was dyed with a layer of crimson, but her tone was incomparably proud. Shizen, what about you? I'm the same as you. Shizen also recalled the past. The first time I was shocked by Garashi was when he loudly reprimanded Tsunade-sama because of Mizuki. At that time, I felt that this boy was too brave. Compared to him, the other boys were simply too childish. Later, Garashi learned medical ninjutsu from Tsunade-sama. He attended classes during the day, practiced genjutsu with your father in the evening, practiced medical ninjutsu at night, and went to the hospital to help on weekends. That kind of learning intensity is simply terrifying. I also asked Tsunade-sama, but Tsunade-sama said not to worry. Garashi has a stronger heart and belief than anyone else. Jingyin waved her small hands and said, I like to see Garashi's serious look. A serious guy is the most handsome. Yes, I think so too. Red nodded excitedly. Garashi looks the most handsome when he's seriously practicing illusion. Hee, that's right. Mute laughed. But the coolest part was when Garashi performed the surgery. No, it's an illusion. Surgery is even cooler. It's an illusion. With that, both of them looked at each other and laughed. After a while, Red said with some worry, actually, I've always been a little afraid. Mute tilted her head in confusion. Afraid of what? In the past, I felt that I was the special one. Garashi helped me protect me because he liked me. Red said with melancholy. But later, I gradually found that Garashi is very good to everyone. He always selflessly helps everyone. Just like this time, Garashi killed the Mizukage in order to avenge Lin. Of course, I know that if we were sacrificed, Garashi would definitely do the same. Red let out a long sigh. But I'm worried. I'm worried that Shushi actually treats us as ordinary friends. Special treatment, in fact, has always been available. Mute covered her mouth and snickered. What is it? Tell me. Red asked excitedly. It's because we used to help Garashi block people. Mute smiled embarrassedly. For someone like Garashi, if he didn't recognize us, how could he agree to our willful approach? Red was also a little embarrassed about her childish behavior of declaring sovereignty, but soon she became excited again. So, we are really special? Aha. Mute asked jokingly. Why don't you go and confirm it with Garashi yourself? There's no need. Red laughed twice and quickly changed the topic. I almost forgot about the business. Actually, I have something to tell you today. Mute asked, what's the matter? Shushi is too gentle. He's always helping others. But, no matter how strong a person is, there will always be a moment of weakness, right? Red said sadly. We still have family, but Shushi only has us. You're saying that Garashi is deliberately using a strong appearance to hide his heart? Mute couldn't help but ask. For us girls, if we like someone, we should like everything about him, whether it's perfect or flawed. I really want to see the real Garashi. But... Red's voice was low. I can't do that. Boys are always very competitive, even if it's Garashi, he wouldn't want to show his weakness in front of us. No one is perfect, but Garashi has to be perfect, because he has always been everyone's leader. Only by making himself strong can he help others. Mute's voice was full of pride and pity. He is such a man who tries his best to be perfect for everyone. So, we can't drag Garashi down. Red looked at Mute with shining eyes. Let us fill the gap in Garashi's heart. Fill the gap and whatnot. Mute's face was hot, white fog was almost coming out of her head, and her body was swaying. Isn't it a little too early? What do you mean by early? Red looked at her strangely. What I mean is, let's cook dinner tonight to celebrate. Oh. Is that so? Mute's little hands suddenly fanned her ear. Didn't you notice? Today, when everyone was talking about going back to celebrate, Garashi seemed a little lonely. Red said seriously. It must be because everyone has family to celebrate, but Garashi can only be alone. I was distracted at that time. Mute was a little embarrassed. Because of Red's hint, she was worried that Red wanted to fight with her to see who should stay by Garashi's side. Red didn't think too much about it and said with a smile, anyway, I've already told you. If you don't come, don't blame me for running away. Mute's eyes widened. You actually said such terrible things as a matter of course. I will definitely go. Chapter 276. Inside Kurenai's home. I don't know if Dad is back yet. Pushing the door open and walking into the hallway, Red said tentatively, I'm back. Hearing this familiar voice, Kurenai Shinkong hurriedly poked his head out of the kitchen. Red, you're back. This familiar and heartwarming scene caused Red's tears to flow uncontrollably. She rushed up and hugged Shinkong as she cried, Dad. Shinkong patted her head and smiled. Don't cry. You're a big girl now. What's wrong with crying? Red wiped her tears. Humph. I'll cry. Although they had met many times on the battlefield, they had never felt as close to each other as they did at home. Shinkong was moved. He pointed at the apron he was wearing and laughed. How many years has it been since you've tasted Dad's cooking? Today, Dad's going to make you a feast. Red excitedly raised her hand. I'll join you. Shinkong paused for a moment before shaking his head. Red, you've really grown up. You even know how to care about Dad. Red's face reddened. If she said that she had specially rehearsed for dinner, her dad would probably cover his chest again. For Dad's sake, I shouldn't tell the truth. Red said in a small voice. Yes, that's right. Under the buff of, my precious daughter cares about her dad, Shinkong felt like he was filled with energy. Even his cooking skills, which should have been rusty, were on full display. It didn't take long for him to finish cooking. Shinkong nodded in satisfaction as he looked at the delicious food on the table. He couldn't help but praise himself. As expected, only food cooked with love is filled with soul. With my cooking skills, it's such a pity that I didn't become a chef. Red also felt a sense of accomplishment. She wiped the sweat off her forehead as she thought to herself, Shizun always cooks for Tsunade-sama at home. I can't fall behind too much in terms of cooking. I'm going to start eating. Red clasped her hands together and began eating heartily. Don't be in such a hurry. Nobody's going to steal your food. Shinkong chuckled. He then asked in concern, you must have suffered a lot in this war, right? Red shook her head. Compared to the others, I'm actually quite lucky. At the very least, I don't have to worry about encountering danger. That's true. Zhenhong nodded in agreement. Your team's enemies won't even be able to avoid you. Red puffed out her chest proudly. Even if it's a team of more than 100 people, they'll still run away in fear when they hear Garashi's name. Upon hearing Garashi's name, Makoto had a complex expression. I never thought that I would be able to teach a disciple who would become a demigod of the shinobi world. Red laughed and teased, why do I remember that you specifically told me that the relationship between the two of you is not considered a master-disciple relationship? Being stabbed in the back by the black-hearted little girl, Zhenhong's mouth twitched. If I say it doesn't count, does he dare to deny it? Red covered her mouth and snickered. Yes, Dad, you're the best. It sounds so perfunctory. Makoto sighed sadly. The Makoto who always liked to say, Daddy is the best, was gone forever. However, with Garashi as a reference, it was foreseeable that his prestige would decrease. Right, Red, there's something I'd like to ask you. Zhenhong suddenly became serious. Garashi, does he have any intentions of becoming Naruto? Red was surprised. Why are you suddenly asking this? Zhenhong lowered his voice and said, I heard that Naruto-sama has already submitted his resignation letter to the daimyo. Judging from his performance during the war, it's highly likely that Garashi will become Naruto. Naruto, huh? That's so far away. Red shook her head. Although Garashi said before that he wanted to become Naruto, I don't know what he's thinking right now. I see. Zhenhong muttered to himself. Is there a problem? Red asked in confusion. I'm just worried about whether or not he'll be able to handle all the criticism. Zhenhong sighed. No matter how great his achievements are, age is still a hurdle that can't be avoided. After all, Naruto's position isn't something that can be taken on just by strength alone. Red fell silent for a moment before she waved her hand and said, "No matter what Garashi's choice is, I'll support him." "That's true." Zhenhong nodded in agreement. Garashi isn't a rash person. If he's really decided to do something, it means that he has his own considerations. All we need to do is support his decision. Although Red said this, she was still somewhat distracted. After hurriedly finishing her meal, Red suddenly said, "I won't be coming back for dinner tonight." Zhenhong was confused. "What? Do you have a mission right after coming back?" "That's not it." Red explained. "Garashi is the only one at home right now. I want to accompany him for dinner tonight." Zhenhong suddenly raised his voice. "Then won't I be alone at night as well?" Red blinked. "Isn't that why I came back at noon?" Zhenhong clutched his chest in pain. Today was yet another day of defeat. At Shizen's house. "Tsunade-sama, at least come and help me cut some vegetables." Shizen pouted in dissatisfaction when she saw Tsunade lying on the sofa like a useless person the moment she got home. Tsunade wiggled her head out like a mollusk and laughed awkwardly. "Shizen, are you sure you want me to help?" Shizen sighed helplessly as she recalled the disaster that Tsunade-sama had caused when she entered the kitchen. "Then at least clean up the house." Tsunade tilted her head and thought for a moment. After hesitating for a moment, she used the summoning technique to summon the liquor frog. Not long after, someone else came to clean up the house. Shizen felt somewhat embarrassed when she saw who it was. "Jiraiya-sama, I'm sorry to trouble you." Jiraiya laughed loudly. "Don't worry about it. I don't have anywhere to go anyway." By the time the house was more or less cleaned up, Shizen had finished cooking and brought the dishes to the table. At this moment, a certain person who didn't care about food instantly became spirited. Tsunade sat down without any self-reflection. After eating a few bites, she commented in satisfaction, "Your cooking has improved quite a bit." Shizen drooped her head helplessly. "Yeah, I've improved." Jiraiya took the initiative to find a topic. "You guys are completely famous this time. Killing the Mizukage, I don't even dare to think about it. Especially in the talks a few days ago, you didn't see it." As long as the name Garashi was mentioned, the faces of the people from other villages changed. Both women proudly puffed out their chests and raised their heads. Tsunade proudly said, "As expected of my student." Shizen almost blurted out, "As expected of my, Garashi." Tsunade smiled mischievously. "Huh? As expected of your what?" Shizen said calmly, "Tsunade-sama, your dinner is gone." Tsunade was stunned and laughed awkwardly. "Haha. I'm just joking with you." Shizen calmly said, "But I'm serious. I'm going to cook for Garashi tonight." Hearing this, Tsunade couldn't help but say bitterly, "Do you have the heart to let me starve? I'm still growing up." Looking at the huge chest of Tsunade, Shizen took a deep breath and became more determined. "Tsunade-sama, you're too fat. It's good to lose some weight." "I'm fat?" Tsunade unconsciously touched her stomach. "Impossible, I shouldn't be fat." Jiraiya smiled wretchedly. "Hey! You should touch a little more." Being stared at by Jiraiya's wretched eyes, Tsunade felt a chill and subconsciously punched him. Looking at the humanoid calligraphy on the wall, Shizen helplessly pressed her forehead. "I have to repair the wall again." Chapter 277. In the evening, Garashi's home. "At present, I still need the chakra of Ichibi, Nibi, Gobi, and Nanbai." Looking at the many scrolls in front of him, Garashi thought to himself. During the Chunin exam, although he had the opportunity to seal Nibi's chakra, he was watched by many Kage at that time, so he couldn't do it secretly. As for Gobi, he didn't find the right time to do it in the first two battles, and after that, it was the armistice period, so there was no way to do it. Ichibi and Nanbai, the former in Sand Crypsis, and the latter in Takagen, are not so easy to come into contact with. However, although I can't collect the chakra of these tailed beasts on the battlefield, it's not a big problem, I already have a countermeasure. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Coming. Garashi put away the scroll, walked through the corridor and the courtyard, and came to the front yard to open the door. Shizun, Kurenai, what are you doing? Shizun and Kurenai stood at the door with big and small bags in their hands. We're here to make dinner for you, Garashi, as a reward for taking care of us in the war. Aren't you going to invite us in? Garashi's heart was surging with emotions, and he smiled and invited them. Of course, please come in. Garashi took the initiative to take the ingredients in their hands, and asked with some doubts, You came to my place on the first day back to the village, won't Minjo-san and Tsunade-sensei have any objections? Kurenai said against her will. Of course not, Dad is very happy. Shizun also echoed, Tsunade-sama is very happy. The two women's eyes met, and as if seeing the hypocrisy in each other's eyes, they hurriedly smiled and turned away. Then I'm relieved. Garashi led the two women into the courtyard, and while walking, he introduced, This courtyard is where I usually practice senjutsu. Over there is the laboratory, where I do some ninjutsu research. Kurenai recalled and sighed, I still remember that Garashi used to live in a simple wooden house. Garashi smiled. I've also kept that house. Occasionally, I'll go there to reminisce about the past. When they arrived at the living room, Garashi put down the ingredients and walked into the house. You guys sit down and rest for a while. I'll go get some. Seeing that Garashi was still planning to let them rest, Mute raised her hand and said, It's getting late. Let's hurry up and prepare dinner. Red also nodded. If we go back late, Dad will be worried. Seeing how determined they were, Garashi could only agree. Then let's prepare dinner together. N. The two women nodded repeatedly, looking forward to the scene of cooking dinner with Garashi. Suddenly, there was another knock on the door. Wait a moment, I'll go out and take a look. After Garashi left, the two women looked at each other, inexplicably having an ominous premonition. Red asked hesitantly, Could it be that someone has the same idea as us? Mute Sound said unconfidently, It shouldn't be, right? Maybe he knocked on the wrong door. Not long after, the two women saw Garashi return with Shuei-mu. Seeing this, Red's mouth twitched and asked, Why are you here? Shuei-mu said matter-of-factly, I'm the only one at home. Is it strange that I'm here to accompany Garashi? Mute Sound widened her eyes and asked, Don't you still have Xiaochun? Shuei-mu waved his hand calmly. How can a woman be more important than Shu, friends? The two women lowered their heads hatefully. The perfect dinner for the three of them was ruined by this ridiculous guy. However, before they could accept this fact, there was another knock on the door. Garashi was a little surprised. What's going on today? A moment later, he came back with Kakashi. Shuei-mu looked at Kakashi and asked, Why are you here? Kakashi said matter-of-factly, I'm the only one at home. Is it strange that I'm here to accompany Garashi? Shuei-mu, have I heard this before? The two girls at the side lowered their heads even more and muttered in a low voice, Another one. However, this was just the beginning. While they were preparing dinner, more and more people came over one after another. Everyone who said that they were going to separate in the morning was magically gathered together in the evening. Seeing this scene, the resentment in the two women's hearts turned into gratitude. Sure enough, Garashi's efforts were not in vain. Everyone was also thinking of ways to repay Garashi's help. As the number of people continued to increase, the originally ordinary dinner first evolved into a banquet, and then transformed into a party. Haha. Everyone is together again. This is too much. Everyone secretly came to Garashi's place and didn't even tell me. So, how did you come here? Of course. Ahem, don't worry about these details. In this enthusiastic atmosphere, even Shuei-mu's cold face showed signs of melting. He stepped forward and said solemnly, Although I've said it many times, I still have to say it, Garashi, thank you. You're like my family. Garashi pressed his shoulder and smiled. Do you need to say thank you to your family? In Garashi's eyes, am I family? Shuei-mu was moved and nodded vigorously. I understand. And me, senior. Kakashi's eyes were full of gratitude. All this time, you've helped me so much. And me. Guy didn't even need to prepare his emotions. In a second, he burst into tears and wailed while hugging Garashi. Only you, senior, recognize my efforts and never be stingy with your help. And me, although there was a tendency to turn into a gratitude meeting, everyone was not disgusted. Instead, they were happy to have the opportunity to express what they were usually embarrassed to say. On the roof, two figures stood quietly. That's great. Looking at the emotional people below, Shinakushina seemed to be infected and said with red eyes, "This kind of friendship is really enviable." Shueimu asked, "Should we go down? What are we going to do? Destroy the atmosphere they worked so hard to create?" Shinakushina rolled her eyes and immediately said with relief, "I was worried that my brother would be too lonely, but now it seems that he has a group of very good friends." Yes. Shueimu also said with emotion, "As ninjas, we protect the village, aren't we protecting the happy smiles on their faces? Let's go, let's not disturb them." The flying thunder god jutsu was launched, and everything returned to calm as if nothing had happened. The people below didn't notice that someone had come, only Garashi looked up thoughtfully. At night, the banquet ended. After cleaning up, Garashi went to the courtyard and sat on the lawn looking at the sky. Such a beautiful scene, I really don't want to be destroyed. Chapter 278. After the end of the war, the party didn't last long. In just 2 or 3 days, would Leaf return to normal. Garashi was no exception. After that night, he entered the state of practice the next day. With my current research, I should be able to obtain the second ability of the Kurama clan Kekei Genkai from Yakumo Kurama. Shushi muttered to himself. Since he had returned to the village, he had to continue his business of whoring for free. The first ability of the Kurama clan Kekei Genkai is to control the 5 senses, and the second ability is to create illusions. As the name suggests, it refers to the projection of the illusion world into reality, and with the will of the caster as the guide, reality and illusion are interchangeable. This ability sounds very powerful, but in fact, it depends on the level of development. If it's not developed, it's actually equivalent to Sasai's Super Beast painting. At best, it doesn't need to use the medium of ink. But if it's developed well, the limit of this technique is Izanagi's Sharingan, and he can turn all injuries and situations that are not beneficial to him into dreams. If there had to be a difference, the former was of the material type, using the power of Ein escape to create a state of nothingness. The latter was of the conceptual type, reverting, form, to the state of nothingness. From this point of view, Madara's Eye of the Moon plan is not without merit. If he's strong enough, it's not impossible to turn the world of infinite Tsukumi into reality. Garashi thought about this. Madara and Bordered Soil believed in the content of the slate. Maybe they were influenced by Izanagi. After all, Izanagi is the best proof that dreams can become reality. Just as Garashi was secretly trying to figure out the thoughts of the two, an umbu wearing an animal mask appeared from the shadows and knelt on the ground. Garashi-sama, Naruto-sama requests you to go to the Naruto building. Garashi asked calmly. When? The umbu ninja replied, now. Is that so? I understand. Then you. The umbu suddenly looked up and found that Garashi had disappeared. He couldn't help but exclaim. Flying Thunder God Jutsu? What a terrible ability. Garashi teleported to the Naruto building and walked towards it. Several ninjas in front of the building have already received the news, so naturally, they didn't stop Garashi and let him in. Garashi-sama, Naruto-sama is already waiting upstairs. Thank you. When he came upstairs, the door was ajar. Shushi gently knocked on the door twice, and the voice of Sandame could be heard from inside. Come in. Shushi pushed the door open and walked in. He saw Sandame reading a book with great interest. Naruto-sama, do you have a task? Not everyone is here yet, wait a moment. Sandame patted the left side of the table, and a stack of books was placed there. If you are bored, you can take a few books and read them. Speaking of which, these books have something to do with you. Something to do with me? Garashi's eyes were strange as he walked forward and picked up a few books to read. Just the title on the cover made the corners of his eyes twitch wildly. Shocking. Where did the Tsuchikige's dust release come from? Inoki's cold-blooded ninja. The death of the third Reikage, the love and hatred between the Tsuchikage and the Reikage. Rock Crypsis village, the land where the flower of evil blooms. Shushi let out a heavy sigh. What are these books? Sandame laughed. It's what you said to them when you settled the dispute in the western camp. I remember I said a lot of things at that time. How come they only remember this? Garashi sighed helplessly. I can understand them, everyone has the passion and impulse to write a book. It was because of this passion that I was able to write down my understanding of the will of fire. Garashi nodded thoughtfully, so this is the beginning of the nightmare. Just as the two were talking about these books, someone knocked on the door again. Come in. Sorry, I'm late. Seeing Garashi already waiting in the room, Minato apologized. Hee, I understand. The third King Yenluo smiled meaningfully. Minato was startled. Why did he feel like he saw the shadow of Jiraiya sensei in Naruto-sama? Both of them were so cynical. Sandame seemed to realize that his smile just now was inconsistent with his usual well-respected image, so he hurriedly threw the forbidden book aside and said sternly, Ahem, today I called you here mainly for one thing, to recommend Naruto. Recommend Naruto? Garashi and Minato exclaimed in unison. You should already know that I made a concession on the Rock Crypsis matter, so I won't repeat it. Sandame looked at the two with sharp eyes. Who do you think is the most suitable candidate to take over Naruto's position? The two looked at each other and said hesitantly. The three of the Sannin are suitable, right? Sandame whispered. The Sannin? Garashi said. Tsunade-sensei is strong, has superb medical skills, and is the granddaughter of the first Naruto-sama. She should be the most suitable candidate for the fourth Sandame, right? Sandame shook his head slightly. Although Tsunade-sensei is the granddaughter of the first Sandame, her personality flaws are too obvious. At least, she's not qualified to be a Kage. Minato asked. What about Jiraiya-sensei? Jiraiya-sensei's talent is ordinary, but he can rely on his own efforts to become one of the three Sannin. This kind of perseverance is really suitable to be a Kage. Jiraiya is indeed excellent, but unfortunately, his temperament is too undisciplined. Sandame sighed. Even if I want him to be Naruto, he will most likely refuse. Minato secretly nodded. It seems that Jiraiya-sensei is the kind of person who doesn't like to be tied down. Garashi proposed again. What about Orochimaru-sama? Orochimaru-sama is an outstanding genius, and has outstanding military achievements. In this war, he resisted the joint attack of Yunin and Kirin. Orochimaru? Sandame sighed. Orochimaru is indeed a rare genius, but his mind is too dark. It may not be a good thing for such a person to be Naruto. Minato hesitated and asked. Naruto-sama, what do you mean? In my opinion, only the two of you have truly understood the will of fire and have the ability to take on the responsibility of being the fourth Sandame. Sandame took a puff from his pipe. You don't have to be modest about this. Whether it is personal strength, contributions, connections, or prestige, the two of you are the most suitable people to be Naruto. So, which one of you will be Naruto? Now tell me the answer. Chapter 279. Both of them were shocked, although they already had some guesses in their hearts. When they heard Sandame's decision, they couldn't help but be stunned. For any wood-leaf ninja, Naruto is the highest level of pursuit and recognition. And the two of them saw the end of the road while others were still trying to climb. The two looked at each other and said almost at the same time, Garashi is the most suitable candidate. I support Minato-san. Oh, you two are modest. Sandame said with a smile in his eyes. However, you shouldn't refuse each other. The title of Hokage is not only about power, but also a symbol of responsibility and obligation. Only by putting the person who is truly suitable for this title in this position can you be responsible for yourselves and everyone in the village. Now, don't be bound by those distracting thoughts, tell me your answer again. The two of them thought for a while and said firmly, no matter how I think about it, Garashi is more suitable. Minato-san is more suitable than me. You too. Sandame shook his head. If you let Danzo know that Naruto, who he has been thinking about all his life, is being pushed around by the two of you, I think he will die of anger. How about this? You guys tell me your thoughts in detail. Minato will go first. Minato was silent for a moment and said, my idea is actually very simple, that is, only the best person can be Naruto, and Garashi is better than me, so he should be the Yandame-sama. Better? That's too general. Sandame wasn't satisfied with his answer. Minato had no choice but to continue. In terms of war contributions, Shirsue's invention of the medical scroll saved many people during the war. He facilitated the formation of the Sand Shinobi Alliance, which led to the early end of the war on the Western Front. His action of killing the Mizukage also led to the end of the Shinobi War. In terms of strength, Garashi is also much stronger than me. As the Naruto, Garashi can intimidate the other villages so that they won't easily start a war. As for popularity, Garashi will definitely be recognized by more people than me. No matter how I look at it, Garashi is much, much better than me. Sandame didn't comment and looked at Garashi. Garashi, what do you think? My view is the opposite of Minato-san's. Many of my methods are actually immature, Garashi said with a serious expression. Just like the time with the sand crypsis, in fact, I guessed that the Kazekage's proposal was to intensify the conflict between me and Danzo, but at that time, I really didn't like Danzo, so I agreed. Although the final result was good, but from the situation at that time, it was indeed a big risk. If Danzo didn't back down at that time, maybe we would have fallen into a situation of disintegration. I should have considered it more thoroughly at that time. Secondly, the action to kill the Mizukage, although it was a lucky success, and it even ended the war, from the perspective of a leader, I was impulsive. If the action failed, not only would I not be able to take revenge, but I might have lost everyone there, and it might even strengthen Kirin's determination to continue the war, which would lead to unimaginable bad consequences. From this point of view, I am too easily bound by emotions, which is not a good quality for a Kage. After a pause, Garashi looked at Minato with sincere eyes. I don't hide my idea of becoming Naruto, but now I am not mature enough, and if I become Naruto, whether it is for me or for Woodleaf, it is not a good thing. So, Minato-san, you should be the Yandame-sama. Garashi, you. Looking at Garashi's sincere eyes, Minato didn't know what to say for a while. Sandame-sama sighed in his heart, I didn't expect that Garashi has never failed to see himself clearly. The two things that Garashi said were actually what he was worried about. Being praised by too many people, it is inevitable that there will be times when he can't see himself clearly, but now it seems that Garashi is far calmer and more sober than he thought. Shushi sighed inwardly. Unfortunately, now is not the time. Of course, he wants to become Naruto, but not now. On the one hand, he still needs to collect the chakra of the other four-tailed beasts. It's not that he can't do it if he becomes Naruto, but it will always be a bit of a hindrance. On the other hand, what he wants to be is the Naruto without any restrictions, not the current Yandame-sama who is restricted in all aspects. You know, even Sandame-sama is restricted by the two Naruto advisors and Danzo. If he becomes the Yandame-sama now, he will be restricted even more. In his vision, he needs an opportunity to break through the upper level of Konoha, and when the middle and lower levels of Konoha are completely disappointed with them, he will stand up and establish his absolute authority with the image of turning the tide. It is precisely because of this that he made the decision to kill the Mizukage, which is absurd and shocking in the eyes of outsiders. This action can not only make his reputation reach a height that ordinary people can't reach, but also let him use this as an excuse to push Naruto. Seeing Minato and Sandaime-sama silent, Garashi smiled and said, "Speaking of which, I also have my own thoughts. If I can learn from you as Naruto's assistant, when I become Naruto, my performance will be more perfect in front of everyone." Sandaime-sama also slightly nodded. "Minato, you agree, Garashi is younger than you, and the Yondaime-sama may be more suitable for him." Seeing the two talk like this, Minato had to agree with a wry smile. "This is also good. If Garashi puts pressure on me, at least I can always maintain a humble and cautious attitude." Sandaime-sama nodded with satisfaction. "Then it's settled. I will go with several advisors tomorrow to discuss the Yondaime-sama's purpose." Garashi smiled and looked to the side. "Should I congratulate you in advance for becoming Naruto?" Minato said helplessly, "Garashi, you are obviously more suitable to be Naruto than me. So, when you feel that it's suitable, I will go to the Yondaime-sama to resign." Shushi pretended to be angry. "That's where you're wrong, Minato. As Hokage, how can you always think of resigning? You should make yourself as strong as possible, so that I have the motivation to chase after you." Minato thought seriously for a moment, then nodded and said, "You are right. Since you are sitting in that position, you should be responsible for everyone, not so irresponsible." Looking at this harmonious scene, Sandaime-sama secretly sighed, as expected of the two who truly comprehended the will of fire. At first, he was worried that the two would have a grudge like Danzo, but now it seems that he was completely overthinking. Chapter 280. The next day, Daimyo's residence in the Land of Fire. In a high-level meeting of both sides, the daimyo sat at the head of the long table, while the representatives of Woodleaf sat on the right side of the long table, while the other dignitaries of the Land of Fire sat opposite them. "Sandaime, are you really going to resign from the position of Naruto?" The daimyo spread out his small fan, covering his mouth, and asked, "You've done a good job. In this war, I have an inescapable responsibility." Sandaime's expression was heavy. "Moreover, I'm getting old, and it's time for the younger generation to take over this position." Danzo said, "What we need now is a Naruto who can bring change to the village, and let the ninjas know their responsibilities, and the fourth Naruto must be such a talent." "Is that so?" The daimyo didn't try to persuade him to stay. "Then, do you have any suitable candidates?" Danzo took the lead and said, "This old man recommends Orochimaru, who is known as one of the Sannin. He is strong, determined, and has outstanding achievements. He has made indelible contributions in the two shinobi world wars. It can be said that he is the best candidate for the fourth generation." The daimyo gently shook his small fan. "Sandaime, what do you think? Is this bastard deliberately forcing me to deny Orochimaru in front of so many people?" Although he guessed Danzo's intention, Sandaime still said, "Orochimaru is indeed a talented genius, but there's malice and ambition hidden deep in his eyes. It's not a good thing for someone like him to become Naruto." "Is that so?" The daimyo nodded. He didn't know much about these things. "What do you think, Sandaime?" Sandaime pondered for a moment. "I recommend Namikaze Minato." "Namikaze Minato?" Danzo suddenly turned his head, and his eyes narrowed. "He didn't choose Shimizu Garashi?" "Oh, I seem to have heard of this name. He seems to be a very good talent." Daimyo excitedly closed his fan and tapped it on his left hand. "Speaking of Namikaze Minato, I seem to have heard of another ninja as dazzling as him. He should be called Shimizu." "Rince, is that his name?" One of the politicians whispered, "It's Shimizu Garashi." "Oh right, it's Shimizu Garashi," Daimyo suddenly said. Looking at Sandaime, Danzo began to add fuel to the fire. "To be precise, Shimizu Garashi should be more dazzling than Minato. It's not an exaggeration to say that he single-handedly ended the Third Shinobi World War." "How strange. Why would you recommend someone who isn't as good as Shimizu Garashi to be Naruto? Could it be that it's easier for you to control him from behind the scenes?" "Enough, Danzo," Sandaime coldly shouted, then looked at Daimyo and explained, "Shimizu Garashi is indeed a genius, but he believes that his ability as a Kage is still lacking, so he privately recommended Namikaze Minato to be Naruto." "Oh." Since even he himself recommended Namikaze Minato, it seems that this is indeed a good choice. Daimyo nodded, opened his fan again, and decided, then I hereby appoint Namikaze Minato as the fourth Naruto. At the same time, Yunnan Village. At the Jonin meeting. Woodleaf has the will of fire, and the probability of a genius appearing is much higher than any other village. Rock Crypsis has the will of stone, and has done a good job in the stability and unity of the village. A Jonin said, to sum up, I think that Yunnan should also have the will of thunder. For example, where the clouds gather, the thunder will continue to roar, and the lightning will continue to shine on the village. Wait. A Jonin couldn't help but complain, isn't it too obvious that the will of thunder is plagiarism? What do you mean by plagiarism? The Jonin who made the suggestion said, homage is not plagiarism. Homage. Can a ninja's matter be plagiarism? Just as everyone was arguing with each other about the will of thunder, a Chunin suddenly rushed in with a panic to report. Reikage-sama, it's not good, Yuki-sama fainted. A, who was dozing off because of the will of thunder, hurriedly asked, what happened? Why did he suddenly faint? I don't know, but it seems that there is a problem with the seal. A no longer hesitated, and hurriedly called the sealing team to go to Yuki's residence. Even Yunnan, who was the most gentle in dealing with the bijou, couldn't eliminate everyone's prejudice against the Jinchuriki. Killer Bee lived far away from the village in the Cloud Thunder Gorge, and Yujito Ni was no exception. She lived far away from the village. When AI rushed over with his men, the medical ninja who had been notified in advance had already finished the diagnosis. A asked straightforwardly, what the hell is going on? There is no problem with Yuki-sama's body, the reason seems to be the disorder of the seal. The medical ninja replied, it's better to ask a professional to observe him. Raimi, go and take a look. AI said to the sealing team leader. Yes. Raimi observed for a moment and hesitated, Reikage-sama, do you still remember the Chunin exam 4 years ago? Chunin exam, of course I remember. A said in a deep voice. How could he forget the fact that his lifelong enemy officially stepped onto the stage of Shinobi World? Yuki-sama suffered a crushing defeat, and there was an enemy's seal on top of the seal. Raimi recalled, at that time, the war was imminent, and in order to ensure that the Jinchuriki would not be lost, we used multiple seals to bypass the seal. Because nothing happened after that, we neglected to deal with the aftermath. But now it seems that there was a problem with the seal a long time ago, and Yuki-sama has been persisting with his perseverance, barely keeping the seal stable. Now that the war is over, the power supporting Yuki-sama is gone, and the seal began to shake, which led to the rapid deterioration of Yuki-sama's condition. What is this idiot doing by herself? Does she think that without her, the war can't continue? AI cursed and then asked, what should we do now? The only way is to break the seal in the proper way. Raimi said hesitantly, in other words, we may have to ask Woodleaf, oh, then let Woodleaf send Shimizu Garashi to save Yuki. A said calmly. Hearing the Reikage's words, everyone was shocked. You are the Reikage, not Naruto. Tsutai whispered, Reikage-sama, we were enemies with Woodleaf a few days ago. So what, isn't there a truce now? A waved his hand indifferently, if they don't agree, they will break the peace and force us to restart the war. The ninja in the room hesitated, but we may not be able to defeat Woodleaf now, right? A snorted at this, idiot. Do you think Woodleaf dares to start a war? The war just ended, and whoever dares to start a war will become a sinner of the ninja world. Seeing A's, although I will be killed if I start a war, I bet Woodleaf won't dare to start a war, attitude, Tsutai couldn't help but sigh with relief, Ai-sama is already a qualified Reikage. However, he still whispered, in fact, it doesn't have to be Shimizu Garashi, I heard that Namikaze Minato also knows how to use the seal. A frowned slightly, he actually wanted to take this opportunity to observe the strength of his lifelong enemy, but since Tsutai already said so, he didn't want to be too obvious. Then let Sandame Naruto choose one of these two people. Tsutai thought for a while and added, asking Woodleaf for help for a seal will really damage Yunnan's reputation. Why don't we use the excuse of restoring diplomatic relations between Woodleaf and Yunnan to lure someone over? Although I didn't think that Yunnan had such a thing as reputation, this addition was reasonable, so he agreed. Okay, let's do as you say. Chapter 281. Woodleaf, in front of the Naruto building. The crowd gathered below, tens of thousands of people crowded in the square in front of the Naruto building, looking up at the top of the building with excitement. No matter how busy the villagers are, they will find time on this day, because this is the day when the third generation and the fourth generation take over. Get out of the way, don't block my view. Everyone, don't push. I heard that the person who will take over as the fourth generation is Minato Jonin. That's good, Minato Jonin. No, the fourth generation will definitely make Woodleaf more prosperous. On the top of the building, the Jonins who hold important positions stood in a row. In front of these Jonins, the third generation and the fourth generation stood opposite each other with a solemn face. Woodleaf is in your hands, fourth generation. The third generation took off the Naruto hat on his head and handed it to Minato. Yes, I am willing to sacrifice my life for this. Minato took the hat and put it on his head and walked forward. Looking at the dense crowd below, Minato couldn't help but feel excited. From now on, I will be the fourth generation of Naruto responsible for the prosperity of Woodleaf. Whether the road ahead is thorny or the road ahead, I will always walk in the front and show everyone the way. The crowd was quiet for a moment, then cheers burst out like a wave. Fourth generation leader. Naruto, Sama, lead us forward. Minato, you really realized your dream. Shina Kushina's eyes were gentle, thinking of the bold words Minato said in the class when she first transferred to Woodleaf. While sighing in her heart, Shina Kushina looked to the side with an apologetic face. Garashi, actually you should be the fire, Garashi interrupted with a smile. Shina Kushina-san, you should have more confidence in Minato Dage, look at the smiles below, you know that Sandame's choice is right. In this sea of laughter, Orochimaru stood there with a calm expression, looking at Sandame's back with a complicated expression. Malicious and ambitious, is that how you see me, teacher? Then, the light in that pair of snake eyes gradually turned cold. If I don't do something worse, wouldn't I disappoint you, teacher? Minato, I'm proud of you. You really did what you wanted to do. Jiraiya thought with relief, but he was still a little worried. Are you the savior that the great Toad Immortal prophesied? While there is a savior, it also means that there will be unimaginable disasters. In the distance, under the shadow of a big tree. The man in a black robe and a one-eyed mask scratched the bark of the tree, leaving 5 claw marks on it. You're always late, but you're faster than anyone else on the road to becoming Naruto. Ha, how ironic. Black Zetsu poked his head out from the trunk and asked carefully, can we go now? Where Shimizu Garashi was present, he didn't want to stay for a moment. That guy's perception was too sharp, what if he was noticed? Bordered Soil looked at the consciousness that Madara deliberately left for him. What a timid waste, Uchiha Madara's subconscious is this kind of trash. Thinking of this, his awe and fear of the old ancestor gradually disappeared. Let's go. Obito took one last look at Konoha, then turned into a space vortex and left without any reluctance. Fortunately, Black Zetsu didn't know that he was the cause of Madara's bad reputation. Seeing Bordered Soil disappear, he quickly ran away. The celebration of Naruto's succession lasted for 3 days. It was not only to celebrate the inauguration of the fourth Hokage, but also to celebrate the end of the war. When everything was on the right track, the new leadership ushered in the first diplomatic mission after the reorganization. At this moment, in Naruto's building, Minato was holding a document and looking at the embarrassed people in front of him. Raikage wants me to send him out? Tsugai smiled twice. When Raikage-sama wrote this document, he didn't know about your succession to Naruto, and didn't the document mention Garashi? Minato subconsciously refused. Garashi is Naruto's assistant, he can't be sent out at will. How can it be sent at will? Dodai corrected, this is an important diplomatic mission for the restoration of normal diplomatic relations between Konoha and Cloud after the end of the war. At such a historic moment, it's natural that a heavyweight such as Shishiki Jonin should be the representative. Minato couldn't help but smile. He looked to the side and asked, Garashi, what do you think? Garashi, who was sorting out the documents on the side, smiled and said, they put me on such a high pedestal, I'm embarrassed to refuse, so I'll go with you after I finish the things at hand. Tsadai coughed twice. It's better to hand over the unfinished business to others. It's more important to officially restore diplomatic relations. Garashi looked at him suspiciously and said, why are you in such a hurry? Are you planning to set a trap over there to kill me? After all, I killed a lot of Yunin's ninjas during the war. Although he thought that normal people wouldn't do this, considering that Reikage wasn't a normal person, Minato said with a straight face, is Yunin planning to start a war again? Tsadai's mouth twitched wildly. What kind of person do you think Reikage-sama is? No matter how messy they are, it's impossible for them to do such an unreliable thing. Knowing that the image of Cloud Village in the other party's heart was already accumulated and difficult to change, Tsukuda had no choice but to tell the truth. In addition to restoring diplomatic relations, we do have a small request that we would like to ask Jonin Shushi for help. This is in line with Yunin's style. Garashi nodded. Tell me, what is it? Tsadai sighed. To put it simply, Garashi, the seal you left on Yuki during the Chunin exam 4 years ago is conflicting with her existing seal. We hope you can lift that seal. Huh? You haven't lifted that seal yet? Garashi asked innocently. Of course, he was the one who deliberately caused this change at this critical juncture. Ha, 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 our Yunin is not very good at sealing techniques. Tsadai smiled awkwardly and politely. Sealing techniques are different from other types of ninjutsu. Without the method to lift the seal, no matter how strong you are, you may not be able to break it. Just like brute force, the consequence of failure may be that the lock is completely stuck. So that's how it is. Then Garashi said, looking at Minato with inquiring eyes. He didn't mean to humiliate Cloud Hidden Village by removing their veil of shame. The main reason was that the war has just ended, and it's a time when people's hearts are complicated and sensitive. Helping Yunin to lift the seal will inevitably lead to gossip. Now, he proposed it to let Minato use Naruto's identity to make the final conclusion. Minato naturally didn't know Garashi's complicated thoughts, and agreed after a little thought. Since the war is over, there is no need to worry too much, just treat it as our would leave sincerity. Chapter 282. Yunin Village, Practice Field. Cloud Flow, Flying Blade. The blonde ninja held a short blade and slashed at the opposite side at an extremely fast speed. It flashed past like a cloud and cut a smooth section of the rock placed on the practice field. However, she was not satisfied with this result. No, I still don't have enough strength. I have to continue practicing. Just as she was about to continue practicing, a white-haired female ninja ran over excitedly. Samui, Samui. Looking at her friend who always made her worry, Samui said helplessly, what's wrong now? Sabina waved her hand. Shimizu Garashi went to Yunin as a diplomatic envoy of Woodleaf. Shimizu Garashi? Samui had a complicated look in her eyes. For years ago, they were barely on the same level, but now, she could only look up to him. She calmed herself down and asked again, but what does this have to do with you? Sabina blinked. How can it have nothing to do with me? I'm now a loyal follower of Garashi-sama. When did you become his follower? Why didn't I know? Oh, just now. You little traitor. Samui was speechless. Don't forget, he's Yunin's enemy. But the war is over. Sabina felt wronged. Besides, I'm not the only one who thinks this way. At this point, Sammy knew that his friend was not lying. For Yunin, who had always worshipped the strong, most people did not dislike Shimizu Garashi. There were even many people who worshipped him like her idiot friend. Especially with Kirin and Rock Cripsis as a comparison, Yunin's loss to Shimizu Garashi was not that obvious, and this group of people was even more justified in their betrayal. Samui said helplessly, no matter what other people think, you should at least stand firm. I'm very firm. Sabina said confidently. What if he's captivated by my beauty and wisdom? Won't we be able to get a general for Yunnan? Samui was expressionless. Haha. Seeing Samui's obvious disdain, Sabina whispered softly, people who think they're superior just because they have a girlfriend are the worst. Samui's eyes suddenly became dangerous. What did you say? Sabina turned her head away guiltily. What did I say? By the way, Yujito Ren's seal still needs to be lifted by him. Are you sure you don't want to go and take a look? The seal of Yujito? Sammy frowned, then nodded slightly. Indeed, we should go and take a look. Entering Cloud Village, along the way, there were crowds of onlookers. But to Garashi's surprise, he didn't see much hatred in the eyes of these Yunnan ninjas. On the contrary, he saw respect and admiration in these people's eyes. Following behind Tsukasa, Garashi looked at the Yunnan ninjas and asked, "It seems that the people in your village don't hate me? Because we in Yunnan have always believed that the strong are respected. We will only give our blessings and admiration to the strong who defeated us." Another Yunnan ninja interrupted. What we really hate is the rock Crypsis who used despicable tricks to kill the former Kage. The ninja next to him agreed. The story of Garashi-sama severely injuring the Tsuchikage is widely known in Yunnan. Rock Crypsis is indeed despicable. Garashi stood on the same side as them and said, but in his heart, he was speechless. Yunnan doesn't seem to be that righteous, right? With the common topic of rock Crypsis, the conversation between the two sides became inexplicably enthusiastic. But at this time, the surrounding voices suddenly became a lot quieter. Shushi looked up and saw Reikage striding towards him with a serious look on his face. Shushi narrowed his eyes at the unfriendly aura of the newcomer. Reikage strode in front of Garashi, looked at him and said, "Please fight with me." Before he finished his words, A pulled B to the side and whispered in a low voice. "Brother, I understand your eagerness to fight with him, but you are Reikage now, you represent Yunnan's face, you should pay attention to your own image." After saying so much in one breath and not using rap, I inexplicably felt tears welling up in his eyes. This guy is finally willing to speak human language. But after being moved, a strong feeling of discomfort greeted him. What do you mean by this? Do you think I will lose? Brother, are you serious? You don't really think you can win, do you? Seeing A's shocked face, A's facial muscles twitched. Within 7 steps, my physical speed is definitely faster than his printing speed. B frowned and said, "Does his flying thunder god jutsu need to be printed?" While the two of them were whispering, the rest of the cloud ninjas were also gossiping about this matter. What did Reikage-sama mean by what he didn't say? "Please fight with me." From Reikage-sama's eyes filled with desire, and Bai-sama's face full of shock, it's not difficult to guess that Reikage-sama's words should be, "Please fight with me." What? Aren't they both men? What's wrong with that? True love can transcend race, time, and gender. Isn't this too taboo? What is this? If Reikage-sama wants to say, "Please fight with me," then it's a real taboo. Under B's repeated advice, I reluctantly withdrew his intention to fight and walked to Garashi with an unhappy face. "Messenger of Woodleaf, I welcome you on behalf of Yunnan." Garashi formally returned the greeting. "Thank you Reikage-sama for your hospitality. On behalf of Naruto-sama, I would like to express my sincere condolences to you. I hope the friendship between the two villages will continue." A's mouth twitched slightly. He really couldn't deal with this kind of formal occasion. It would be nice if he could fight with him to express his condolences. Tsutai, who was watching from the side, knew that his boss was impatient and quickly said, "Reikage-sama, why don't we take Garashi to the banquet first?" "Well, okay." I responded dryly, but suddenly he tilted his head and wondered, what banquet? Tsutai suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart, but he still asked, "It's the banquet to welcome Garashi." "There is a banquet?" I complained, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Tsutai pressed his face in pain. He couldn't be the Reikage-sama's assistant anymore. They were both Reikage-sama's assistants, but why was the gap between them so big? Tsutai took a deep breath and said, Reikage-sama, you take Garashi to the village first, I will go and prepare. A patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly, this time I will cover for you. Next time, pay attention to yourself and don't make such a careless mistake again. Earth platform, earth platform, earth platform, earth platform. Chapter 283. This is the martial arts field, where we Yunin ninjas fight. This is the practice field, where we practice ninjutsu. This is the Thundercloud Sea, where I usually practice taijutsu. Under the enthusiastic guidance of A, every place they went was related to practice ninjutsu. It was as if he was frantically hinting for Shushi to fight. This was also A's idea. If you don't want me to mention it, then the other party can, right? Unfortunately, Garashi didn't seem to understand his intention at all. When they walked through the martial arts field again, Garashi even vaguely reminded them, we seem to have been here before. Even Killer Bee couldn't stand it anymore and pulled him, brother, that's enough. A looked at the two of them bitterly and finally began to lead them to a normal place. Of course, they had already wasted too much time, so they didn't see many places before they were found by the person sent by Tsudai to summon them back to the banquet. Tsudai is really unreliable, I didn't have time to take the guests to visit a few places. Awuching said. Everyone looked at him contemptuously, he really dared to say this. A was unaware of these gazes and looked at the two people who came to find them with a smile. Speaking of which, you two and Special Envoy Garashi took the Chunin exam at the same time, right? Garashi naturally noticed it a long time ago. After all, the conspicuous symbol on Samui's chest was very recognizable. As for the other one who was blinking crazily, was there sand in his eyes? Well, the first opponent I met in the final battle was Special Envoy Garashi. Samui's expression was complicated, it was indeed a memory that she couldn't bear to look back on. In addition to being killed by the other party's genjutsu, the way he stopped her breasts made her breasts ache. That battle was really dangerous. If I had been a little slower in forming the hand seals, would have been the one who lost. Shushi said, pretending to be serious. Samui's mouth twitched. If she didn't know how he beat the Yuki, she might have believed it. Since it's such a rare battle, do you want to relive it? A asked. Samui looked at the respected Reikage-sama in shock. Did she accidentally offend Reikage-sama? The other party is a fierce person who can even kill the Mizukage. She is just a Chunin. Fighting with him will kill her. A continued, of course, with your current strength, Garashi, fighting with Samui is a bit bullying, so do you want to consider? Without waiting for him to finish, Shushi calmly refused. Oh, then I won't consider it. Seeing Garashi directly refuse A's proposal, Yunin and the others were relieved. Sabina, on the other hand, was frustrated. She had never fought with Shushi before, so she could not get a word in edgewise. Then, she was completely ignored. Reikage-sama, shall we go now? Well, although that guy is unreliable, it's not good to let him wait for too long. Everyone followed behind the two of them. Sabina gritted her teeth and said, hey, huge, harmonious, breasts are really amazing. Banquet hall. The architectural style of each village is different. Wood leaf is fresh and elegant, sand crypsis is simple and solemn. Yunan is luxurious and wild, the feeling of a nouveau riche. After exchanging a few pleasantries, A let go of his hands and feet. As he gobbled down the food, he strongly recommended it to Shushi. Let me tell you, this wagyu is a specialty of our country of lightning. You must try it. On the grill, the steak was golden in color and sizzling, drops of hot oil slid down the lines of the meat, it was really appetizing. Garashi picked up a piece of beef and tasted it carefully. This is indeed the best beef I have ever eaten. Huh, isn't it? A laughed loudly. Come, try our country of lightning's wine. Garashi looked a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, Ninja's 3 prohibitions state that you can't drink until you are 20 years old. A's eyes suddenly lit up. Hey! Why do you care about prohibitions at the banquet? Come, let's drink. This, A said excitedly. Aha! If you don't drink, you don't give me face, if you don't give me face, be careful, I will. Boom. Before his voice fell, A was sent flying by an octopus leg. Don't mind, big brother, he drank too much. Yunan and the others secretly praised in their hearts, better than Sama. In the outside world, A, who was planted upside down on the ground, was angry. As the Kage of the village, what's wrong with wanting to know first-hand information about Woodleaf's powerful combat power? Besides, the war has just ended. Is it possible that the other party dares to kill him at this time? It's better to say that now is the best time to understand the other party's true strength. Why can't these bastards understand his painstaking efforts? Thinking of this, A pulled himself out from the ground and turned into a bolt of lightning as he rushed in. Bye, you bastard, you've really grown up. You actually dare to make a move on Big Brother. Don't be impulsive, don't be agitated, although I know Big Brother is in pain. Speak human language, Lei Meng Hot Blade. If Big Brother wants to test my current strength, then I'll use Lei Meng Hot Blade as well. Seeing that the two of them were about to use their ultimate move, the surrounding people panicked. How did a good banquet suddenly become like this? One must know that the two of them are the absolute core of Yunnan. If anything happens to them, Yunnan's losses will be too great. Shushi, on the other hand, was watching the show with great interest. It was rare to see such an exciting scene. Tai hurriedly ran over. Envoy Garashi, can you please stop the two of them? Shushi blinked. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Tai hurriedly said, only Garashi, Sama can help us. Really? I'm not here to solve a family dispute. Having said that, Garashi sighed and stood up, looking at the field with a dignified look. His strength is indeed stronger than either of these two, but it's almost impossible to seal one of them in an instant, let alone suppress both of them at the same time. But the actual battle is not like this. The two of them are not working together, they are concentrating on the battle, he just needs to seize the opportunity to sneak attack. In the blink of an eye, Raikage and Killer Bee have finished accumulating power and rushed toward each other at a speed beyond the limit of the human body. At this moment, a chakra wave spread out. Caught off guard, the two of them instantly fell into an illusion. Driven by inertia, they rushed forward without slowing down. Just when the two of them were about to collide, Garashi teleported between them, raised his hands, and released a biting cold from his palms. The next moment, two ice sculptures appeared in the banquet hall. Chapter 284. Seeing that Garashi sealed Raikage and Hachibi's Jinchuriki in an instant, everyone present couldn't believe their eyes. They know that Garashi is very strong, but isn't it a bit too much to be this strong? After all, whether it's Raikage or Killer Bee, both of them are at the top of the ninja world. How did this guy train? With his current strength, he should be the strongest in the ninja world, right? Amazing, worthy of Garashi, Sama. Sabina excitedly pulled Samui and said, even Raikage and Killer Bee were suppressed by him in an instant. Is this your strength that shook the ninja world? After the shock, Samui's face suddenly became serious. Idiot, is this the time to be infatuated? What? What's wrong? Sabina was puzzled. Raikage and Killer Bee were suppressed by him, which means that if he has any malicious intent, no one here can resist. Samui said in a deep voice. Well, it seems so. Sabina was dumbfounded. Not only her, but everyone present also gradually reacted. The current Yunnan is completely defenseless in the eyes of Raikage. Thinking of this, everyone looked at Garashi nervously. Is Yunnan going to come to an end today? Garashi asked with an innocent look, why are you looking at me like this? If you think I'm meddling in other people's business, then don't blame me, it's your assistant, Tsutai, who asked me to do this. Everyone cast a shocked look at Tsutai, they didn't expect him to betray Yunnan. Tsutai wanted to cry, I asked you to stop them, I didn't ask you to seal them. Well, can you release Raikage-sama first? I didn't seal them, speaking of which, this degree of ice should, Kacha. The sound of ice cracking was heard, the two broke the ice and jumped out while trembling. Bastard. How dare you sneak attack me? I roared angrily. Oh, it was Tutai's assistant who asked me to do it. Garashi continued to shift the blame. Tutai, this is a misunderstanding. Tutai said weakly. Humph. Be more careful next time. Don't always make me clean up after you. I sighed in exasperation. Yes, I'll definitely bet next time. As he spoke, Tutai realized that something was amiss. Wait, this is obviously Raikage's fault. He is cleaning up the mess for Raikage. I didn't care about Tutai's reaction. After slightly diverting his embarrassment, he began to ponder, this guy is really strong. But if I hadn't been careless, it wouldn't have been that easy for him to defeat me. Compared to him, my resistance to illusions is a little weaker. Moreover, I have too few methods to deal with him. All in all, I'm still not comprehensive enough. I have to do everything I can to increase my strength. As long as any Kage could sense the pressure brought by the other party, it was impossible for them to stop moving forward. In any case, the other party's strength is too strong. What's even more terrifying is that this strength doesn't seem to be the limit of his growth. If Woodleaf is willing, with Shimizu Garashi's future, it is entirely possible to subvert the ninja village by himself. He must have the strength to resist before Woodleaf has such a dangerous idea. At least, he must have the strength to protect himself. Although Woodleaf advocates peace most of the time, it's stupid to place your own safety on the enemy's kindness. It's precisely because of this that he didn't care about his face to test the strength of the other party. Yes, it's definitely not because he's itchy. In Killer Bee's consciousness space, Hachibi also warned, as long as this Shimizu Garashi doesn't disappear, Yuyunin had better behave in the future. We have always been very obedient. You know whether you are obedient or not. Killer Bee smiled awkwardly and changed the topic, but, even Hachibi, you are afraid of him? Hachibi didn't comment and coldly snorted, I do remember some unpleasant memories from this kid. What unpleasant memories? Oh. It's the memories of being caught by a big idiot called Hashirama. The first Naruto. Killer Bee was shocked, I didn't expect you to have such a high evaluation of him. Humph. If it weren't for the fact that I can't find a comparison, I don't want to mention that idiot's name. For us Bijou, anything related to that name is the worst evaluation. No way. I think everyone's evaluation of the first Naruto is quite high. That's you humans. Hachibi was furious, that bastard said that we are too dangerous, so he captured us and sealed us. But he is much more dangerous than us, why didn't he seal himself? Killer Bee smiled. It's quite excessive. After the banquet ended, A led Garashi and the others to the place where the Yuki lived. Without waiting for Garashi to observe, he hurriedly asked, how is it? Is there any problem? Garashi pondered for a moment, although it's a little troublesome, it's not a big problem in general. It's just that it took more time than usual to bypass your seal. Oh, that's good. I nodded with relief, then looked at Garashi and wondered, why are you looking at me like that? Garashi calmly pointed to the door, please go out. A wave to the others, you guys go out first. Garashi added, and you? A pointed to himself in disbelief, I have to go out too. Garashi nodded and said, on the one hand, the room has to be quiet, and on the other hand, it's not good for you to see the jutsu. Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm the kind of person who can remember the jutsu after seeing it once? I let out a roar, then looked at Garashi suspiciously, wait, you're not going to do something strange to the Yuki, are you? Garashi's mouth twitched, it only takes a few minutes to break the seal. I was still sizing up the suspect, you're the fastest ninja in the world, faster than me. It's normal for you to be faster. Garashi looked at him as if he was an idiot, the fastest ninja in the world is doing this? If you don't believe me, then there's no need for me to continue. Well, I'll go out. Since Garashi said so, A could only compromise, but before he went out, he didn't forget to warn him, don't do anything strange. After everyone had left, Shushi set up a small enchantment that isolated perception. Then, He looked at Yujito no Ren, who was lying quietly on the bed. By the way, stealing some chakra shouldn't be a strange thing, right? Chapter 285. In order to steal Second Last's chakra, he had to hide it from Second Last. However, considering that there were precedents, it wasn't difficult at all. The former Hachibi's Jinchuriki was paralyzed by Orochimaru's illusion pills, after which it went berserk. Even the Hachibi couldn't recall what happened back then. Garashi naturally followed suit and stole Second Last's Jinchuriki without her knowing. After doing all that, Garashi put away the scroll nonchalantly and began to remove the seal on Yuki. Generally speaking, it wouldn't take too long to remove the seal. However, in order to have enough time to steal chakra, he deliberately said that the seal had become much more troublesome because of their influence. Hence, even though he spent a little more time stealing Second Last's chakra, he still had plenty of time. Under Garashi's full effort, the seal that was about to become a chronic illness in Yuki's body quickly dissipated. Then, with a meow sound, Yujito gradually woke up. Where am I? Yuki suddenly saw Garashi's face while in a daze. She instinctively panicked and asked, Shimizu Garashi, what are you doing here? Have I been captured by you guys? Although the war had already ended before she fainted, the memories of the war still occupied most of her mind and she subconsciously thought that she had been captured. Don't worry, wait a minute, I heard that the enemy will do terrible things to the captives. Yuki looked down in horror and continued, I'm on the bed now. Are you planning to be a beast? Don't misunderstand, atrocious, even if I'm not your match, I definitely won't give in easily. Garashi had a peculiar expression on his face. Won't give in easily? Does that mean you'll still give in? Wouldn't that be more misleading? Nikomata, lend me your power. However, there was no movement in his body at all. Yuki called out twice more before Nikomata's soft voice came through. Don't disturb me. I'm so tired. I feel like I've been squeezed dry. I need to sleep. Seeing that Nikomata had no reaction, Yuki looked at Garashi in horror. You won't even let Nikomata off. In a sense, you're right. Garashi complained in his heart. He chopped her head with his hand and explained calmly, in order to break your seal, I slightly limited its power. Also, you don't even recognize the layout of your own room? What? Have you already conquered Yunnan? Garashi sighed helplessly. He had heard that the more aloof a person was, the easier it was for them to be confused when they weren't conscious enough. That's how this guy is, right? Garashi simply removed the barrier and opened the door to let the people outside in. AI walked in quickly and said with relief, Yuki, you're finally awake. Yuki was once again frightened. Reikage-sama, you've also become his slave? Slave? AI's eyes widened and then looked at Garashi in shock and anger. Did you really do something strange? It took a little bit of effort for Garashi to clear up the misunderstanding. It was also at this time that he finally understood the hardships of being an assistant. In Yunnan, it's really hard to be a normal person. At night, in the underground fortress of Yunnan. Yoshihiro, I need you to restart the chakra cannon project. AI said in a deep voice. I remember that the Sandaime said that with the controllable Bijidama, there's no need to continue to waste manpower and material resources on this research, right? Yoshihiro said while pushing up his glasses. That was before. AI said in a deep voice, now the situation is different. In order to deal with the threat of Shimizu Garashi, we must increase our bargaining chips as much as possible. Reikage-sama, forgive me for being blunt. Yoshihiro shook his head. Even if the research and development is successful, the chakra cannon won't be a threat to that kind of strong person. I'm not threatening him, I'm threatening Woodleaf. At the very least, we must have the power to make Woodleaf afraid. What do you mean? I remember that the research and development program mentioned that the ideal chakra cannon is equipped with 2 attack modes, the diffusion chakra cannon and the spacetime chakra cannon, right? Yoshihiro's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. I didn't expect Reikage-sama to remember it so clearly. Do you really think I'm an impulsive fool? That's just a mask for a kage. AI said mysteriously. Yoshihiro's mouth slightly twitched. Why did he feel that the Reikage-sama was the one who was wearing a mask? The diffusion chakra cannon can disperse the attack into thousands of parts at the same time. If it's used to attack wood leaf, no matter how powerful the defensive ninjutsu or space-time transfer ninjutsu is, it won't be able to do anything to it. AI continued, there's also the space-time chakra cannon. Can this kind of attack be transferred by space-time ninjutsu? In theory, it can't be transferred. Yoshihiro analyzed, the expected space-time chakra cannon has the space-time attribute. It should be able to offset the effect of space-time ninjutsu. Even if it doesn't work, we can also use the collision of the two space-time attacks to destroy the enemy. This is good. AI nodded with satisfaction. You should hurry up with the research and development. The future of Yunnan depends on you. I'll try my best. Yoshihiro took a deep breath and said. You can't try your best, but you must do it. AI emphasized. Yoshihiro's eyes were full of helplessness. Scientific research isn't something that can be done just because you want to. Then I'll develop the diffusion chakra cannon first. Anyway, as long as one of these two models is successfully developed, it can pose a threat to wood leaf, right? Although AI himself was more optimistic about the space-time chakra cannon, he also knew that space-time is the most difficult to develop, so he nodded and agreed, then I'll have to trouble you. The events of the next few days can be summarized like this. The Light of Wood Leaf, the shinobi demigod, Naruto, and Shimizu Garashi were invited to visit Yunnan. They were warmly received by the leader of Yunnan, Reikage, and many other Yunnan jonin. The two sides reviewed the past and looked forward to the future. In a warm and friendly atmosphere, they reached an important consensus on the goal of re-establishing diplomatic relations between the two villages. During the visit, Reikage led Envoy Garashi to visit the Yunnan ninja training place. Envoy Garashi expressed his gratification, and hoped that the younger generation of Yunnan ninjas could inherit the spirit of the older generation, have the courage to temper themselves, have the courage to climb, and become a good youth who can shoulder the future of Yunnan. In the end, the meeting came to an end in a harmonious and friendly atmosphere. Yunnan highly praised the prominent role of Envoy Garashi in this exchange, and emphasized that peace is the theme of the future of the ninja world, and anyone who wants to destroy the hard-won peace will become a sinner in history. Chapter 286. Woodleaf, Naruto Building. Garashi, who just came back to report, looked at Minato with an apologetic face and asked, So, I just came back and have to go to Sand Crypsis again? Sorry, because this is an agreement between the Kazekage and Sandem-sama, and it's you, Garashi, who was appointed to carry out the exchange. Minato also became more skilled in throwing the blame, so, I have to trouble you again. An agreement between the Kazekage and Sandem-sama? Garashi asked doubtfully. I heard Sandem-sama say that this is an agreement they made during the Chunin exam. As one of the conditions for Sand Crypsis to participate in the war, Garashi will go to the Sand Crypsis ninja school for a period of time. I was sold without knowing it. Garashi sighed helplessly. Actually, it's not bad if you think about it carefully. Minato laughed. Just treat it as a public holiday. At least, it's much better than sitting in this office every day. Even if it's a trip, choosing the desert as the target is too. Garashi shook his head and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Forget it, I'll go and prepare in advance. After all, it's a rare opportunity for exchange. I'll take the three of them to Sand Crypsis to exchange. Minato clasped his hands together. Please. Woodleaf, Orphanage. Wow. Brother Do and the others are here. Sister Ren brought a lot of delicious food. With the arrival of the three, there was a burst of cheers in the orphanage. The war has just ended, and it's a time when supplies are scarce. Although Woodleaf has the advantage in this war, there is no winner in the war. Even if they win the war, their situation is only better than the other villages. For the orphanage, the situation is even worse. The money Nanoyu earns alone is really a drop in the bucket. Fortunately, the previous group of ninja orphans can also earn money by completing tasks, but they don't earn much money. The real local tycoons are the three of them. Of course, the so-called nouveau riche was only relative to children. After distributing the food, Yinayu called the three of them to the side and sighed with relief and pity. It's really been hard on you. However, you don't earn much on your own, so don't subsidize everyone. I'll find a way to deal with the matters of the institute myself. No, we've earned a lot of money. Lotus exaggeratedly spread her arms and described. And we are medical ninjas, we don't need to take risks, and we don't need to buy equipment like Yurusi and the others. We don't even need to spend our money. Mist proudly declared. Really? You looked at the three of them suspiciously. Of course it's. As Lotus spoke, her stomach suddenly growled. Her face turned red and she couldn't continue. Yinayu suddenly said seriously, haven't the three of you eaten? Pocket weakly raised his right hand. The three of us went to the cafeteria to scrounge for food. Wu nodded. It's all because Lotus's appetite is too big. Nonayu's eyes turned red, she squatted down and hugged the three of them in her arms. Silly children, don't do this in the future. At this moment, a gentle voice mixed with a little helplessness came from behind them. You guys are making me, your teacher, ashamed to show my face. Hearing this familiar voice, the three of them excitedly turned around and shouted. Garashi-sama. Garashi-sensei. Garashi, Nonayu also smiled, then looked at the woman beside Garashi and asked, This is? This is the special envoy of Sand Crypsis, Pakura. Garashi said, then bent down and rubbed the heads of the three little ones. Next time, if you have a problem, you should directly ask me, don't do this. Yes, yes. The three of them nodded obediently. With that, Garashi stood up straight and said with an apologetic face. Sister Nonayu, I'm sorry, I didn't know the current situation of the orphanage was so difficult. Nonayu shook her head slightly. You are now Naruto's assistant, there are a lot of things to consider, I don't want to bother you with such a trivial matter. How is this a trivial matter? Garashi sighed. How about this, I'll take out 35 million, is that enough? Where did you get so much? Nonayu said, she couldn't help but laugh. With Garashi's current status, it's natural for him to have so much money. I can't take it, it's too much money. On the other hand, Mustache was completely unaffected. Was 35 million taels a lot? In the future, it's just Asma's money. In the underground gold exchange, the Mizuki's head is worth 100 million. If I'm short of money, I can just go and kill a few ninjas. Garashi said calmly. 100 million. The eyes of the three little workers seemed to have turned into the shape of stars, looking at Garashi with eyes full of worship. They worked hard in the hospital to earn more than 100,000, but their teacher earned 100 million every minute. Pakura on the side couldn't help but ask, Garashi, did you get the 100 million reward? I heard that the rules of the underground gold exchange is that the corpse must be intact. The Mizuki is a kage of the village, it's not good to desecrate his body. Garashi shook his head. For the widely spread deeds, as long as you can prove your identity, even if there's no corpse, you can get half of the reward. Pakura added. Oh. Is there such a thing? Garashi looked at Pakura with a smile. I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable about the bounty. Pakura shook her head slightly and looked at Garashi with a dignified look. I studied this because of you, Garashi. Garashi pointed at himself with some surprise. Because of me? Maybe you don't know yet? The highest bounty of the underground gold exchange has been refreshed by you. Pakura said in a deep voice, the bounty is 1 billion. What? 1 billion? The three and Kanoyu exclaimed. 30 Asuma. Shushi wasn't worried at all. He even had the time to grumble to himself. Seeing Garashi didn't care, Pakura reminded, I know that Garashi is very strong, and in a head-on fight, no one in the entire ninja world can be your opponent. But those hyenas have always been unscrupulous: assassination, poisoning, traps. They can do anything, and it's not like there are no strong people among them. Seeing that Konoha and the other three were worried, Garashi smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm very experienced in assassination. In the early days of the war, if I don't get assassinated for a period of time, I can't sleep well." Seeing Garashi claiming to be an assassination expert, Konoha didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In short, you should pay more attention to yourself. Garashi smiled and nodded. In exchange, Konoha-san, please accept this money. Konoha was silent for a moment, then sighed heavily. Garashi, thank you very much. Don't worry, I'm not interested in money. Now that I think about it, the happiest time I got money was when I worked in the hospital as a child. Garashi recalled and said. The three have never doubted Garashi's words, and after listening to him, the worship in their eyes became even stronger. As expected of Garashi-sama, I must have this awareness in the future. So working is the happiest time? We must cherish this period of time. Chapter 287. Seeing this warm and harmonious scene, Pakura sighed with emotion. It's so good. Obviously a group of people who have suffered so much can show such a heartfelt smile. Garashi smiled and nodded, yes. As long as I see the smile on everyone's face, no matter how tired I am, I can wash away all my fatigue. With that said, Garashi looked at the three again. I'm going to the ninja school in Sand Crypsis for a while. Would you like to come with me? The three couldn't help but show a look of longing in their eyes. Whether it was Sand Crypsis or the ninja school, they were all very far away from them. We want to follow Garashi-sama. We will go wherever sensei goes. Shushi smiled and said, then you guys get ready. We'll be leaving soon. Pakura also smiled. I also have a lovely disciple. You can communicate with each other after you go to Sand Crypsis. Sand Crypsis Village, in the conference room. Today we are mainly discussing two issues. Raza said, first, we need to choose a new Ichibi Jinchuriki. Funboku-senpai passed away. We must choose a new vessel as soon as possible. As his voice fell, the room instantly became silent, and all the jonin either looked dignified or evasive. According to past experience, unless the Jinchuriki is strong enough to suppress the tailed beast, it is best to choose a child of 0 to 5 years old as the vessel sacrifice. The Jinchuriki and the tailed beast are two of the same body. If a child is used as a vessel, once the tailed beast goes berserk, it can be easily suppressed because of the insufficient power of the sacrifice. But the consequence of this is that the Jinchuriki as the vessel of the tailed beast is likely to collapse because of this. Even without considering the rejection and fear after the selection of the Jinchuriki, this behavior itself represents a very cruel meaning. Therefore, they naturally don't want their children to experience this terrible thing. But the problem is that the Jinchuriki is an important fighting force of the village. If orphans or children of ordinary families are used as Jinchuriki, what if they defect? Relatively speaking, as the important people of the village, they are the first choice. In this strange silence, some of the jonins who have no children or children over the age limit spoke. Why don't we just draw lots to decide? I suggest limiting the scope to newborns within 3 months of birth. I object. Children between the ages of 0 to 5 should be included in the selection. Being older also has its advantages. Perhaps there are already children who have shown the potential to suppress their own emotions. At this time, the part of the jonin with children also began to propose. The growth period of a Jinchuriki trained from a young age is too long. We need combat power that can be formed as soon as possible. Yes, I suggest that we choose some chunin with a strong heart as the experimental subjects. However, the others scoffed at their suggestion. The war has just ended, and it is impossible for a second war to break out in a short time. It is most appropriate to train Jinchuriki from scratch. Oh, if you want to talk about inner strength, why can't it be us jonins? The quarrel between the two sides became more and more intense, and there were even signs of a big fight. Enough, the Jinchuriki will be. Raza snorted coldly. Looking at their behavior, he had an inexplicable impulse to take it on himself, but thinking of Temari and Kankuro, he couldn't bear it. In the end, he could only sigh. Let's talk about the Jinchuriki later. Now let's discuss the second topic. Everyone seemed to sigh in relief and tacitly agreed. Some of you should have heard that I invited Garashi of Woodleaf to come to our sand crypsis for exchange and guidance, but you may not understand why I am doing this. After avoiding the heavy topic, the voices of the Jonins were much lighter. No, I understand. Regarding this decision, I raise both hands in approval. Senpai, are you sure that raising your hands is not a surrender? Raza's facial muscles twitched slightly. These bastards really have no eyesight. Can't they see that he wants to continue? Fortunately, as a loyal follower of the Kazekage, the new Jonin Maki asked, I still don't quite understand. Why are you doing this, Kazekage-sama? Raza nodded approvingly at him and said, according to my observation, Garashi seems to have the ability to dig out potential or strengthen potential. Let's not talk about those geniuses around him. I'm mainly talking about Mizuki, who is ignored by most people. Mizuki? Some of the Jonins were surprised. The one who is said to have plotted against the third Mizukage. Raza nodded slightly. As long as you collect information about him, it's not difficult to find that his talent can only be regarded as ordinary. Among his graduates, his grades can only be regarded as above average. But now? Not only has he mastered the same powerful ability called Senjutsu as Garashi, but he is also strong enough to make the third Mizukage stumble on him. Such a big change is absolutely inseparable from Garashi's guidance. Hearing him say this, everyone's face became a lot more solemn. To be able to make an ordinary ninja undergo such a rebirth, it's not an exaggeration to say that Garashi can turn stone into gold. Thinking of this, everyone's mind became active. Kazekage-sama, do you want to use Garashi's hand to dig out a group of children with potential? It should be training. Didn't you see that Mizuki with ordinary talent can compete with the Mizukage? But Garashi is Woodleaf's people after all, will he really guide them? Raza said solemnly. Sand Crypsis is a loyal ally of Woodleaf. With Garashi's capacity, I believe that he won't let us down. A group of Jonins looked strange. Did the Kazekage deliberately want them to spread these words? Konoha is concerned about its international image, and it is worried that its allies will be surprised. After hearing this, they might even take the initiative to ask Soishi for serious guidance. Raza seemed to be seen through, and he emphasized, of course, your attitude is also very important. If you don't show our attention, then you can't blame Garashi for not paying attention. Kazekage-sama is so reasonable. In order to show my attention, I decided not to wait for the school to recruit students, and I will send my 5-year-old child to school quickly. Ahem, I suggest that the ninja school temporarily recruit a group of students. My child is 4 years old this year, and she can barely attend the class. The opportunity is rare, and we should relax some requirements. Although my child hasn't been born yet, it's good to listen to prenatal education. Hey, isn't it too much to occupy resources for prenatal education? Listening to the quarrel below, Raza couldn't help but fall into contemplation. My child is almost 3 years old. How about letting her feel the atmosphere of the school in advance? Chapter 288. Wow! Is this the Sand Crypsis village? When they arrived at the Sand Crypsis, Ren looked around in surprise. It looks good. Fog carefully said, it's spectacular. Pakura felt helpless in her heart. Most of the guests from other villages would praise the Sand Village for its spectacular and majestic appearance. At first, she believed it, but later she learned that it was only because the Sand Village had nothing to do with beautiful and exquisite. Everyone said it in order not to be rude. Garashi secretly looked around. Compared with the last time he came to the Sand Crypsis, the living standards of these villagers didn't seem to have improved much, but their mental outlook was completely different. Is it because of the victorious country that they are more or less confident? At this moment, a sorrowful cry suddenly came from a temple in the distance. Woo, like the sound of a horn, it lingered in the sky for a long time, giving a sad feeling. Then, the sound became sharp and ear-piercing, like the sharp cry of a wild cat after its fur stood on end. Even people who don't understand raccoon language can hear the anger in the voice. The three of them were startled by this sudden sound. What is this sound? Pakura looked in the direction of the sound with a complicated expression. That's the cry of a chibi. It's sending off a friend and declaring its anger to us. Can a tailed beast have friends? Ren asked in surprise. This is indeed incredible in the eyes of many people, but Senpai Bunpoku of our village did it. Pakura sighed. Senpai Bunpoku has been imprisoned since he was born because of his identity as a Jinchuriki. He almost never left the temple, and most people even forgot his real name. Too much. Fog said subconsciously, and then quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I accidentally said. Seeing Fog's helpless look, Pakura smiled. You accidentally said what's in your heart, right? But don't worry, because I also think it's too much. With that, Pakura sighed again. Senpai Bunpoku is really amazing. In this case, he didn't have resentment in his heart, but instead built a bridge with his heart. When he was alive, Ichibi didn't even go berserk once. Kabura was shocked. Amazing, Senpai Bunpoku's heart is too strong. It's really amazing. Ren nodded vigorously, but suddenly her body stiffened. When he was alive? After all, Senpai Bunpoku is too old. Oh, the old grandpa is so pitiful. Kabura asked in confusion, why is Ichibi angry? Ichibi thinks that we killed Senpai Bunpoku, and in fact, it's not wrong, because Senpai Bunpoku did die in our hands. Pakura sighed and continued, Garashi, you should know what it means for a Jinchuriki to die. Garashi said, it means Senpai Bunpoku. The Jinchuriki, without a Jinchuriki, the Jinchuriki without his, Senpai Jinchuriki, and Jinchuriki who lost Jinchuriki's Jinchuriki, Jinchuriki S. With the Jinchuriki, SSS, SSSSS, SSS, without his. Pakura's words had a great impact on Kabura and the other two. A person who dedicated his life to the village ended up like this. Shushi asked, but is it really okay to do this now? The Ichibi can break the seal at any time, right? In fact, the Ichibi has already gone berserk twice, but it was suppressed by the Kazekage again. Pakura said in an uncertain tone, its voice now sounds much more stable than before, so it shouldn't go berserk again, right? That's the case, then I'm relieved. Garashi squinted his eyes and looked at the temple, chuckling softly. In the evening, at the welcome banquet. After carefully collecting information about Mizuki, a group of jonins found that things were more exaggerated than what the Kazekage said. A person whose body was destroyed and almost lost the qualification to become a ninja, at the age of 14, grew to the point of being strong among jonins. The gap between them was really hard to imagine. Because of this, they were even more enthusiastic about Garashi's arrival. Garashi Jonin, don't be polite, just treat this place as your own home. Yes, don't be shy. In less than 2 years, Garashi Jonin defeated the Tsuchikage and the Mizukage one after another. It's really awe-inspiring. With Garashi Jonin, it seems that there will be no war in the ninja world for the next few decades. Seeing that their sensei could become the focus of the crowd even in the sand crypsis, the three little ones behind Garashi all puffed up their small chests with pride, looking at Garashi with eyes full of worship. Raza looked at this scene speechlessly. These idiots don't even have a little bit of modesty as a sand crypsis ninja? At first, he was worried that because of the end of the war, some of them would lose their due respect for Garashi and hinder his exchange plan, so he deliberately emphasized the importance of Garashi. But now it seems that it was completely overkill, right? Just as he was cursing in his heart, Shushi walked over with a cup in his hand. Kazekage-sama, I'm sorry, because of the 3 forbidden ninja, I can't drink for the time being, so I'll use tea instead. Raza's eyes were strange. Compared to the 3 forbidden ninjas' money, wine, and women, the 3 forbidden ninjas with leaves are more terrible, right? Although he was thinking about the impoliteness in his heart, Raza still smiled and raised his glass to respond. Garashi Jonin, don't worry about it, it's good enough. Garashi didn't leave after the toast, but said in a sincere voice, "Speaking of which, among the 5 Kages, I admire Kazekage-sama the most." Raza was slightly startled. "Ah? What?" "At the beginning of the war, I don't think anyone in the village was optimistic about the sand crypsis. The former Kage disappeared, people's hearts were unstable, and Kazekage-sama was too young, so it was difficult to convince everyone," Garashi said with emotion. "But in such a critical situation, Kazekage-sama, you took over the position of Kazekage, tried to stabilize the situation in the village in the early stages of the war, and then cooperated with our Woodleaf to boldly attack and defeat Rock Crypsis and win the war. If I were in your position, would never be able to do as well as you." Raza's face turned red. "Haha. Garashi Jonin, you flatter me. Come on, let's drink." Of course, he didn't care about the praise of ordinary people, but when it came from Garashi's mouth, and it was the thing he was most proud of, the meaning was completely different. For a while, he had a kind of joy. Garashi continued to use the scumbag's drinking skill. "This is not flattering, in my opinion, Kazekage-sama, you are completely worthy of any praise. With your own strength, you supported the economy of Sand Crypsis, in the face of the provocation of a small country like Hidden Rain, and for the overall situation, you didn't care about the position of the joint commander of the 2 villages. To be able to win this war, Kazekage-sama, your contribution is absolutely irreplaceable." Raza was sad. In the early stages of the war, he was a young man in his 20s, and he had to play hard with several old foxes. Was it easy for him? Looking at the other Kages in the other villages, who worked like him to subsidize the village. After 4 years as a Kage, he felt like he was 40 years old. Thinking of this, Raza raised his glass with a bitter face. "Oh, Garashi, you understand me. Let's not talk about these disappointing things. Come on, let's drink." After a few glasses of wine, he was a little drunk. But Garashi didn't intend to let him go. "Yes, the past is the past, it's better to look at the future. I suggest that Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis continue the exchange at the ninja school, learn from each other, and improve each other." Raza's eyes lit up, and he put his arm around Garashi's shoulder and said, "This is good, the future ninja world should be a win-win ninja world. Come on, let's drink." Seeing the scene of the two, the rest of the Jonin couldn't help but feel sour. "Damn it, Kazekage-sama, don't you have any restraint as the leader of Sand Crypsis?" Chapter 289. At night, the villagers of Sand Crypsis village had fallen asleep. Suddenly, the calm night sky was filled with wind and sand. Then, the wind and sand suddenly became more rapid. With a sharp and harsh roar, a civet cat covered with curses appeared, entrenched in the sky above the Sand Crypsis temple. Logically speaking, now is a good opportunity to escape. But Shikaku didn't do so. Instead, he chose to vent his anger. "Damn Sand Crypsis, feel my anger." Shikaku's paw slammed down, and the earth instantly cracked, and the terrible crack spread like a spider web. Such a huge commotion naturally woke everyone up from their dreams. Although they were a little panicked, they were not afraid. This is the 3rd time, and according to experience, this stupid civet cat will soon be sealed by the Kazekage. So, they just need to watch the show quietly. The big cat is not obedient again. Yeah, haven't you tasted the power of the Kazekage's magnet release? Then, 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds passed. The Kazekage, who always arrived first in the previous 2 times, seems to be absent this time. At this time, they really panicked. Where is the Kazekage? Could it be that he slept too soundly? How is it possible, with such a big movement, even the pigs should wake up? Is it because of the night activity, and accidentally overworked? What time is it? You still have the mood to talk about dirty jokes. Although gold is quite dirty, what does digging gold have to do with dirty jokes? The ninjas who knew a little bit of the inside story were pale. The Kazekage seems to be, probably, maybe drunk too much. At the same time, in the Kazekage's house, Raza was lying on the bed, muttering, "I'm not drunk, I can still fight for 300 rounds. Jiaberuo, who had a big belly, gently pushed him, looking a little anxious. Raza, wake up, wake up. Raza muttered discontentedly. I'm awake, don't make trouble. Seeing him like this, Jia Baruo asked with a trace of fantasy, then do you know that the Ichibi went berserk again? Ichibi? Raza frowned in a daze, such a small character bothers me. It's more likely that the nine-tailed beast would go berserk. Seeing this, Jia Holuo had no choice but to walk to the door and shake his head at the people waiting in front of the door. I'm sorry, Raza won't be waking up anytime soon. Hearing her words, the people waiting at the door became anxious. Damn it, why does it have to be now? Without Kazekage-sama's magnet release, how can we suppress Ichibi? Don't pin everything on the Kazekage-sama, are we just decorations? Huh? Did you just realize that you're just a decoration? Jia Holuo helplessly watched them quarrel. Suddenly, he felt his trousers being pulled. He looked down and saw Tempura holding Kankuro's hand and hiding behind him. Mom, Kitty is so scary. Jia Baruo lovingly stroked his daughter's head. Don't be afraid. Uncles will catch the bad cat. Really? She sucked on her fingers. Then, her gaze was suddenly attracted by the commotion in the distance. Wow! Bad Kitty has been beaten. Needless to say, Geryulo and the other Jonins also heard the loud noise in the distance. Turning their heads, they saw a figure stepping on Ichibi's head and beating him down. This is... Jia Holuo was still puzzled, but the other Jonins had already cheered. Great, it's Garashi-sama. Huh. I was worried that Garashi-sama would sit back and watch. As expected of the conscience of the shinobi world. Garashi-sama? Tempura tilted her head. Is he as powerful as Dad? At this moment, above the Sand Crypsis temple. Garashi stepped on Ichibi's head and looked around apologetically. I'm sorry, I shouldn't intervene in the internal affairs of the Sand Crypsis, but Kazekage-sama may not be able to come because of me. In order to apologize, let me suppress him. The leader of the Jonin said. Garashi-sama, you're too polite. We can't thank you enough for your help. The rest of the Jonins also said. It's supposed to be a welcome party, no one wants this to happen. We all saw it, it's Kazekage-sama who wants to drink, it has nothing to do with Garashi-sama. At this time, Shikaku, who was stepped on by Garashi, shook his big head and finally woke up from the state of being beaten and shouted angrily. Damn brat, who the hell are you? Sand Crypsis shouldn't have someone like you. A group of Sand Crypsis Jonins proudly introduced, the one standing on top of your head is Shimizu Garashi-sama, the demigod of the shinobi world, the enemy of the tailed beasts, and the shadow killer. The enemy of the tailed beasts? Shikaku keenly noticed the details. Nibi, Yanbi, Rokubi, and Hachibi were all defeated by Garashi-sama, and you will soon become part of this list. This brat is so strong. Shikaku's eyes widened, from the looks of these guys, they didn't seem to be lying. Thinking of the blow that just knocked him down, Shikaku panicked. As the best-tailed beast to learn, and as an excellent student who can even make hand seals and use ninjutsu, it knows very well how strong a seemingly weak human can be. However, it still forced itself to say, this brat only defeated those useless even-numbered tailed beasts. I'm different from them. A group of Sand Crypsis Jonins blinked blankly. Is there such a thing as even-numbered tailed beasts and odd-numbered tailed beasts? At this time, Garashi said, the damage caused by the battle in the village is too great, I will take it out first. As soon as his voice fell, one person and one beast disappeared from everyone's sight. Seeing this scene, all the Jonins were amazed. This is the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. He can transfer such a big beast outside the village. Amazing, worthy of Garashi-sama. Let's hurry up and follow. What's the hurry? Are you afraid that Garashi-sama will be defeated by the Ichibi? Idiot. I am worried that the Ichibi will be killed by Garashi-sama. Hiss. What you said seems to be very reasonable, hurry up, or it will be too late. Outside the city, yellow sand filled the sky. Shikaku shouted with some lack of confidence. This uncle is not an idiot who only knows how to use instinct. I will let you see how powerful this uncle is. Garashi didn't pay attention to it. He just narrowed his eyes and thought, I can't let Shikaku know that I am collecting its chakra, so I have to make it unconscious first. It won't be long before the Sand Village's people catch up. I have to hurry. Shikaku instinctively felt a chill in its heart. Its two big claws began to make hand seals. Wind release, air bullet. A strong airflow like a beam of light spewed out from Shikaku's pores and shot toward Garashi, who was standing on its head. Chapter 290. Regarding this, Shikaku was very proud. When other tailed beasts encountered this situation, except for Yanbi, who could turn his body into magma, the other tailed beasts could only clumsily pat their heads with their claws. Not to mention the low efficiency, they also looked very stupid. Thinking of this, Shikaku laughed loudly. So, this is the advantage of learning. Humph, this uncle is different from those idiots. But some tailed beasts laughed and then cried. When did it want to learn? Its chakra was the least. If it didn't learn how to make hand seals and calculate carefully, its chakra couldn't even be compared to some monster-level humans. Especially when compared to a fox, it was even more miserable. How could a civet cat be inferior to a fox? Old man Six Paths, this damn fox control. Shikaku cried and cried, but it felt something was wrong. No matter how sentimental it was, it couldn't cry in the middle of a fight. Also, after it used the air bullet, why didn't it continue? Was that human kid hit by it or not? Thinking of this, a lightning flashed through its mind. Damn it, it's a genjutsu. Damn it, when did it happen? Genjutsu, dispel. The moment the genjutsu was dispelled, the pain like a tide came one after another. Shikaku found that in just a few seconds, its body was covered with bruises. The physical pain, coupled with the genjutsu, made Shikaku more and more manic. Damn kid, I want you to pay. Shikaku was ashamed and angry, but then it froze. The other party was holding a small sun-like ball of energy high up in the air. The terrifying power contained within the ball of energy was enough to frighten even the demon beast. Oh. You struggled out of the genjutsu? Just in time, use your heart to feel the second gift I prepared for you. Garashi smiled and threw the senjutsu, ultimate jade Rasengan, in his hand toward Shikaku. The moment the ball of light bloomed, he quickly escaped from the scene of the crime through the flying thunder god jutsu. F***CK #%, Shikaku only had time to say one word, and then it was swallowed by the terrifying energy storm. The pillar of light illuminated the night sky as if it was daytime. The surging tide of chakra converged into a sandstorm, wreaking havoc in the desert. Witnessing this horrifying scene from afar, the Sand Crypsis members felt their mouths go dry. The battle is really intense. Are you sure the battle is intense? Why do I feel that Shikaku is the one being beaten? No matter what, Shikaku is a tailed beast, it shouldn't be that bad, right? I hope Shikaku's vitality is tenacious, otherwise it will be really troublesome. By the time they arrived, Shikaku was already lying on the sand, with its tail broken. Garashi pretended to replenish Shikaku's chakra. Sorry, I accidentally used too much force. Garashi said apologetically. In order to collect the chakra in the shortest time possible, he went all out and didn't hold anything back during the whole process. Even in the battle when he killed the Mizukage, he didn't care so much. Everyone swallowed their saliva with difficulty, looking at Garashi like a demon. They knew that Shushi was very strong, but the fact that he was able to severely injure a chibi to the brink of death in just a few minutes was not something that could be explained by his strength alone. He was ridiculously strong. After the shock, they were somewhat sad and doubtful. Their treasured chibi was so easily defeated. What's the significance of the Jinchuriki as an important fighting force of Sand Crypsis? Instead of risking their lives, it's better to transfer the time to cultivate their Jinchuriki to hug his thigh. After putting away these messy thoughts, they smiled awkwardly. Garashi-sama, you don't have to worry, you are also thinking about the safety of Sand Crypsis. Let me ask, Shikaku won't die, right? Seeing them being so cautious, afraid of angering him, Garashi smiled. Don't worry, a tailed beast won't die so easily. Ha! Then I am relieved. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then I will take it back to the temple now and reseal it? Thank you. In the Sand Crypsis village. In just a few minutes, the chaos caused by the tailed beast riot hasn't passed yet. But everyone has been told that a strong person will deal with the tailed beast, plus the disappearance of Shikaku, their mood has calmed down a lot. At this time, Shikaku's huge body appeared again. Ah! That monster is back. Everyone run. Wait, how come its body is upside down? Everyone reacted, the monster should have been defeated, right? Moreover, this appearance of 4 feet in the air is inexplicably cute. What's going on? Compared to these ordinary villagers, the ninjas present were shocked from the bottom of their hearts. Whether it's the weak vitality of Shikaku or the terrible injury, it shows that its injury is very serious. Although Kazekage-sama can also suppress the Ichibi for a short time, it's relying on the sand to slow it down, just like tying a rope to a cat and dragging it back to the cage. Garashi, on the other hand, is equivalent to beating the cat half to death and then throwing it directly back to the cage. The difficulty of these two is self-evident. In the distance, Jia Peruo stood on the balcony and watched this scene, shocked. Is this the strength of the shinobi world's demigod? It's terrible. Tamari clapped her hands and cheered, the bad cat has been caught. Jia Peruo touched his daughter's head, do you want to be as powerful as that big brother? Hanju asked, if I become stronger, will I be able to make dad less tired? Jia Peruo was startled and immediately smiled gently, of course you can. Tamari waved her small hand, then I also want to become super powerful. The next day, early morning. Garashi, I'm sorry. After the in-depth communication last night, Raza removed the slightly unfamiliar honorific. I originally invited you to come over to exchange and learn, but I didn't expect to trouble you to help us seal the Ichibi. It should be me who apologizes. Garashi also looked apologetic. If it weren't for me talking to you yesterday, you wouldn't have drunk so much wine, and no one would gossip. Although Raza saved everyone twice, he is the Kazekage, and this kind of thing is reasonable in their eyes. The third time he didn't appear in time, which made his reputation drop a lot. On the contrary, Garashi, who saved them once as an outsider, won high praise. In one night, another nickname, Friends of Sand Crypsis, was added. No, it's all because my will is not strong enough. It's certain that he was depressed, but Raza didn't think much about it. After all, Garashi didn't say a word to persuade him to drink last night, but he was the one who kept talking. Let's not talk about these disappointing things, let's go, I'll take you to our Sand Crypsis ninja school to have a look. Chapter 291. Sand Crypsis, Ninja School. Ding-ling-ling after class, the children gathered together in groups of 3 to 5, excitedly discussing what happened last night. Did you all see it? Last night, that super scary big tanuki cat appeared again. What's so surprising? It's not the first time. It's not the same. Last night, the big tanuki cat was beaten until it cried. Huh? Did it cry? Really, I can guarantee it. Did you see it? Although I didn't see it, my neighbor's aunt's friend's son was there at the time, and he said so. In this fierce discussion, someone suddenly said, I heard that it was Woodleaf's ninja who beat the big tanuki cat last night, but Kazekage-sama didn't beat it twice before. Does this mean that Woodleaf's ninja is more powerful than Kazekage-sama? As the voice fell, the surroundings suddenly became quiet for a moment. After a while, someone said with a positive tone. Impossible, Kazekage-sama is the strongest ninja in the ninja world. Kazekage-sama must be protecting the small animal so he didn't beat it until it cried. It must be so, no matter how bad the big tanuki cat is. It's the property of Sand Crypsis. Kazekage-sama must be worried about breaking it, so he didn't beat it too hard. However, there were different voices in these arguments. But why did I hear that Garashi-sama is the strongest ninja in the ninja world? I seem to have heard that. The adults in my family also said that he was the one who ended the war. I heard that he was the joint commander of Sand Crypsis and would leave during the war. Even Kazekage-sama had to listen to his command. Amazing, so Garashi-sama is such a powerful person? At this moment, a cold voice came from behind them. What's the strongest in the ninja world? If Woodleaf really has such strength, he wouldn't pretend to be pitiful and beg Sand Crypsis to join the war. Everyone turned around and saw a few senior boys standing at the door with disdainful looks on their faces. That's right. How can you believe such lies? Remember, Sand Crypsis is the strongest. What's Shimizu Garashi? He's just a lucky guy. If it weren't for Kazekage-sama suppressing Ichibi twice, how could he win against that monster? Kazekage-sama didn't ask for the position of commander because he was modest. How could he be as thick-skinned as him? The group of junior students lowered their heads, not daring to speak. Seeing this, the seniors nodded in satisfaction and asked, "Oh right, where are the exchange students from Woodleaf?" No one replied, but their subconscious gaze towards the corner of the wall had already explained everything. In the corner, two angry little girls and a calm-looking little boy were sitting there. That's them? The senior boy in the lead snorted and walked to the corner. Bastard, 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 how dare they speak ill of teacher. In the corner, Lotus grinds her canine teeth and says, I will definitely not forgive them. I'm going to break all their teeth. Fog also said angrily. Don't be impulsive, let me do it. Kabuto's voice is calm, but it gives people a chill. The two girls looked at each other and were worried about each other. You're not going to kill them, are you? Although I don't dislike killing people, it will disturb the teacher. Kabuto tilted his head, with an innocent look on his face. What are you talking about? I'm just a child. How can I do such a terrible thing? At this time, the senior boys came over and looked up at them with their nostrils. You are the exchange students from Woodleaf? Yes, that's us. Kabuto stood up, in fear, and said, however, you may have misunderstood. We are orphans adopted by Woodleaf on the battlefield. In fact, we are not Woodleaf's people. Not Woodleaf's? The boys were stunned, this was not what they had planned. While they were distracted, Kabuto quickly said, orphans like us outside the village are not eligible to enter Woodleaf School, so we are very grateful to Sand Crypsis School for letting us study. Compared with Woodleaf, Sand Crypsis School is really much bigger. Seeing Kabuto's grateful look, the boys were a little embarrassed. So that's how it is. I was wondering why you look so pleasing to the eye. Seeing this, Kabuto looked at them with innocent eyes and asked, Senpai, you must be the excellent ninjas of Sand Crypsis School, right? Several people nodded proudly. Of course, we are super brave. Then Senpai must be very powerful, right? Of course. Well, why do you ask this? In fact, orphans like us who have experienced war have a sense of crisis. If possible, I also want to become a powerful ninja. Kabuto said, but Garashi-sama will only teach us some medical ninjutsu in his free time. He also said that the strength of a medical ninja is not worse than other ninjas. Several people sneered at this. What kind of combat power can a medical ninja have? He deliberately doesn't teach you other ninjutsu in order to control you. Kabuto bit his lower lip and said pitifully, I am very grateful that Garashi-sama can teach us ninjutsu, but I also want to become stronger, not to become a medical ninja who can only rely on others. So, can I ask Senpai to fight with me once? Please trample on me and then prove that Garashi-sama is wrong. Of course, this is not a problem, one of them subconsciously prepared to agree, but before he finished speaking, he was pulled back by the others. Why are you stopping me? This is a good opportunity to prove the strength of Sand Crypsis. I always feel a little strange, isn't it too much of a coincidence? You are worried that he is lying to us, right? You look at him with such innocent eyes. Besides, aren't we here to fight with them? It seems that we are here to cause trouble, and now at least we are in the right. After the whispered discussion, they turned their heads back. Well, we answer. But before they finished speaking, one of them suddenly reacted, wait, you already know medical ninjutsu? Kabuto blinked, yes, what's the problem? Several big boys were a little embarrassed. The lowest medical ninjutsu is D-class ninjutsu, and among them, there are even some who don't even know E-class ninjutsu. However, looking at Kabuto's pure and clean eyes, they felt that they were thinking too much. What's the use of low-level medical ninjutsu? Besides, the other party is willing to tell this information. Isn't it a sign of trust? Let me confirm, you only know medical ninjutsu, right? You don't know other ninjutsu, right? Kabuto's eyes were pure. Really, I only know a few of the simplest medical ninjutsu. This time, several senior students were finally relieved. Go to the field and let the senpai train you well. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.